Or how does he want to do it?
I'll say 1406 hours, 61780 FD. Talk to Erick Almandinger, potentially service search warrant for Bravo Alpha 16-37667 tablet. Possesses. Troopers. Hello, how are you?
Fine.
I'm looking for Erick.
God damn.
Is Eric
Let me talk to Erick.
Erica around?
Again?
Yeah, just a follow-up.
Did you find that baby?
No, not yet,
We're
ma'am.
not going to find him.
Why do you say that?
After 2 days.
Sure, yeah, we're almost 5 days in now.
I know. I told him to go back out, but I don't know if anybody ever did.
Yeah, we're out
Did he
looking.
start from where you thought he was?
Yeah.
And then you need a lot of people to walk the whole thing hand in
I
hand.
mean, it's a long ways.
There's a lot of crap out in the butte to dump a body in. You ever thought that he might have known the kids?
It's a theory.
Well, it's better than a good theory.
Yeah. Why's that?
Because we're going out to buy clothes.
What's that?
We're going out to buy clothes.
Who is?
Oh, I just heard it in a passing by.
Okay.
Is it true that they found his phone?
No, not true.
Okay.
Ah!
I wish.
True.
We
Hey, Rodney.
You must be Rodney, that house.
We
Hey,
thought-
Erick, how's it going, my man?
You're gonna get sick.
How you doing, man?
How about you?
Hey, not too bad. Maybe we can chat for just a moment. You want to go inside? It's so much warmer inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, let's go. Let's go. Come here.
Were you headed somewhere? I see the car running out there.
I'll wait for you.
Okay, perfect. I'd like to just steal 2 minutes of your time if you don't mind.
Okay. Count.
Okay. But don't time me. Don't time me. First, all right. You can be in here. Yeah, we can try to do some follow-up here. The other day I noticed you had that phone on you. Is that what is that? Phone? The tablet? What is that?
No, it's not a phone, it's my tablet.
Where's that at these days?
Downstairs.
Okay. One of the things that I need to do to control this investigation, I know you're friends with David. You want this to get sorted out just as much as anybody else, I'm sure. I've never had any one of my friends go missing like this. I can only imagine kind of what's going on in the background here. But as you know, like I told you before, we got to handle this in advance of it being proven to be a homicide. We have to handle it like it is, just in case. We have I's to dot, T's to cross. You understand the concept? Just in case.
After 2 days, it is a homicide.
And I would love nothing more than for David to just show up and say, hey guys, JK, I was just hide out for a couple
There
days.
would be no JK in there.
But still, I would like that. You understand?
And you know what?
What's that?
I don't know how old you are, but I need to kick you for even saying JK.
Well, I'm talking to a
What
16-year-old.
does JK mean,
Just kidding, just kidding.
You do that my bad shit, and we're gonna have to just,
Alright, so you know what I mean though, I would love it if he showed up and he just said that and we moved on with life. However, without having something like that, I gotta handle this investigation like maybe he's not
You doing investigating, or
I'm running the unit.
you're the one that called me the first day?
No, that was investigator Feeser. He works for me. He's not working today, but he does work for me. So we've got actually a team of investigators working on this,
So
believe it or
you
not.
need to see his tablet?
Yes.
Sorry, you get right now?
Yeah, let's go get it.
I don't need help either.
Well, we gotta go with it. It's just the rules we get. That's nothing not looking for.
We'll figure it out.
Hey, come on down. I appreciate it.
Just taking a check those out.
As long as you don't have to read anything, and you understand we just have to make sure that you have to preserve the integrity, that's all. Is there a passcode lock or anything?
No, sir.
Beautiful.
I just got 13 Snapchats to check.
I'll check your Snapchats.
Okay, yeah. Well, you can do it upstairs.
Okay. Oh, no, thank you. I appreciate it, though. I guess we're going back. I guess we're going back upstairs. Or we can do it here. Okay. He's just checking his Snapchats.
What kind of bizarre?
It's like the cops, I do stained glass, do glass work, and then my other son does rope work.
Oh, wow. Do you do that here in the shop?
Well, the shops are new, so there's no power in it. That's why that hole looks really bad.
What's it?
That's a big dog.
Yeah.
How old's your dog?
She's two. We were over to, she took her dad's jeans. All the other ones are short and small like the mom.
Mm-hmm.
She took dad's jeans, which happens to be a big ass brute.
She got it all right. Do me a favor. Just power it off for me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, stop. Move, Gigi.
Dog thinks it's a cat.
What are you doing?
There you go. Is that?
I know.
And when you power it back on, there's no passcode or anything?
Sir, you go back. It's line across the screen.
So the reason we're looking at stuff like this is actually not, did you already talk to somebody whose phone we've looked at?
No, I understand what's going on. I'd like to say,
Okay,
shows about it,
is that one?
so
Yeah.
it's just part of it.
It's not our tablet, it's your tablet, you're getting it back. But we have to forensically analyze it, and of course we're going to apply for a warrant before we do that, and we may or may not get the warrant, but we do have to check on that, and the reason is because we know that David was at least trying to contact people, including Eric and David Evans and Victoria and some other folks. Whether or not those messages actually ever came through or not is another question. Now, it may in fact be that there's a message somewhere embedded in the back end of this that you can't even see that didn't ever really arrive necessarily, but it might have helped us for this investigation. So that's kind of the background of where this came from.
So basically, I give you that, and then you're going to do some tests on it. And since you said you're waiting for a warrant, therefore...
Yeah, I was gonna ask that question too, warrant for what?
To search it. When we have an investigation like this, it's always in the best interest of the people whose stuff we seize to get a judge's third-party, unbiased opinion on whether or not we actually have probable cause to search it. And so we always apply for a warrant. And I always tell people, we may or may not get it. Based on what I've seen so far, there's a probability that I'll get it, but I can't guarantee anything like that.
Well, I know he hasn't been on because the messages I sent him They've never been viewed.
Gotcha.
See, the only position I'm in is I just won't have a phone for a couple of days, so.
I understand.
If it needs to have a warrant, then it should just wait until you get that, so then you can do it all at one time. But
I understand. And that's a perfectly...
I don't want to say, I want my phone, because then that just leads to suspicion, right? Well, or is that reasonable to say, can you guys wait to get a warrant?
No, it's not reasonable, but it is normal.
Okay.
The warrant's happening today. Okay? It's either happening or not happening
You guys let me
today.
know in progress.
Absolutely. You're gonna be in the loop in this the whole
I'm just
as much as I
So
can.
you're not able to look into it to tell me to get a warrant, or you can look in...
But the warrant takes me 30 minutes. Keep in mind, it's not like I gotta mail China in order to get a warrant. I write. And that's
No,
just
I'm curious as to how,
sure.
you know, if they're taking things that you can't search it yet, so you're just collecting them for when you do get it, then you don't have to go back out and go...
Well, there's no reason for me to get a warrant to search something that I don't physically have. So I get the thing first, in this case this, and then I apply for the warrant to search it later. Does that make sense? Now, this is on, you mentioned earlier, it does not just Wi-Fi, but some sort of data as well.
Yeah, that's cellular.
That's cellular data.
Whose account is that? Yours or Dad's? Mom. Grandma's. Okay. Is there a phone number associated with that?
Yeah, well, yeah, there is, but it's not...
There is, but you don't use it as a phone number.
I totally would. I have that thing all text message stuff, but Sunday can't because she would have to.
So how do you use it then?
Just Facebook Messenger is how I text people through normally.
Okay. And Snapchat, obviously, because you get a ton of snaps then. Okay. But the data is turned on to the point where you can use it. Yeah, makes sense.
And
Okay.
you girls, you know, I know I've been gone most of the morning, but I ain't been gone for days.
Now, sir, I was reading through some of the reports, and as you know, we've got, he's been working on this, I've been working on this investigative. He called you, Dad's mom came by at some point.
Yeah, Sunday night, apparently she's calling from the driveway. Calling me from the driveway.
Okay. Did you talk to her then?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But you didn't go out and meet her, is what I'm asking.
No, I didn't, because I just told her that we didn't have a feeling about it, so...
That night, do you remember Eric leaving the house?
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't know how he left the house? Do you know if he left the house?
No.
Okay. Do you remember when the next time you see him after Sunday night after they call you and you get a hold of you on the phone? When was the next time you see her?
Today.
Today's Friday. I came by and talked to him on Wednesday.
Tuesday.
Tuesday is the next time you see him? Okay. So what were you doing between Sunday when you left and Tuesday?
I was thinking of something.
Where at?
It was, I was standing outside, somewhere out there. I told him no, I just needed a place to stay, so I literally slept in their shit. And the parents didn't know I was there.
Okay.
Thank God this was like, okay,
Can you handle that for a second? So you know where inside?
I got it. I don't remember.
Sure. Was it in the main drag or something, or was that towards the prison?
I never really been to something before, and I never really drove around there and I didn't know there was a prison.
Oh, okay. You know where I'm talking about, the 58 Mile Road area?
Yeah. Kind of.
Okay. What's the friend's
That's the
name?
one that they had closed down.
Huh?
And I thought they could turn it into a home
Annalise,
place.
it was a friend of my friend.
Plenty of land.
Friend of a friend.
Farm and
Annalise. You got it?
leaf, huh?
Okay. Do you know Annalise's last
But
name?
at least it would be fenced in, so you wouldn't have any moose coming and eating it.
And I can find it out.
Okay. Let's go. I'm going to take you back in time. You already remember we talked on Wednesday. Okay, so you have a mark in your brain. Wednesday night at about 4:30 we spoke. I want you to take me back through Sunday
Yeah, well...
and then get me into Monday and Tuesday since we talked Wednesday.
I think there's a go back on Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay, Sunday, what's come out here on the come out here, I'll give it up with my dad for an hour or so out there. Christian sitting right here, left because he So he was like, well, you gotta get out or do something. And I was like,
Okay, so he goes home.
around, I don't know.
Okay.
But 1 hour after, a little bit hour after David Evans, that's all.
I'm not holding,
And he told me after we were all done arguing how he got hit.
Okay. And that was via David Grunwald.
no,
Okay. But you never saw David Grunwald?
No, sir. I
Okay.
didn't even know, I didn't even see his car or anything.
So David Evans ends up leaving. Do you remember how he leaves?
David Evans left? I was just told that I think Tristan Youngberg picked him up.
Okay.
That would have been the person who picked him up.
Was that before you left the house or after?
That was after.
So, in order of who leaves this house first, who leaves first? You, David, or Christian?
Christian?
Christian leaves first.
And then followed by David. I don't know.
David's brother came and picked it up.
Oh, okay, so that's
Okay. And then Eric leaves second. And you don't remember what time that is?
I'm busy working, so I don't, I get surprised when they come walking right by me, go, when did you walk by me?
Okay, and then, where did you go? Okay, and how did you get there? Okay. Premier taxi?
I'm pretty sure that's
Okay. Have you ever taken another taxi service in Anchorage? Or only ever Premier?
I know I've only ever taken a taxi once there.
And it was Premier? Okay, so this would be the second time Premier took you?
No, the first time I ever took it there.
Okay. So you've only ever taken Premier one time?
I've only ever taken a taxi to Anchorage one time in my life.
And it was Premier? And it was Sunday? Sunday night? Okay. And then you went downtown? Okay. Partied?
Alright.
Then what?
Amen.
Okay. How did you get back?
Girls,
How did you drive?
go back down, had some people driving back to where we were all going. And the girl was in the car with us because they were driving her home.
Okay, so
But he was asking around for me.
what's his first name so we can call that his name? What is, yeah.
Bradley.
Bradley drives you home. And was that Monday?
Bradley finds me. He asked around for his friends to see if I can have a place to go stay. And he found someone, and then that person was getting a ride home from there.
Okay.
So I went home with the girl.
And what was the girl? That was Annalise. So you ended up going from Anchorage to up by Sutton where Annalise lives?
I guess so. That's where I was told I was at.
Okay. You remember driving through Palmer?
I didn't like I was
And you will try
I was
to
thinking
take it home.
Was it, what time of the day or night was it?
It was nighttime.
Nighttime?
It was morning, right after the party got over.
Okay, so it's still, so you'd only ever been in Anchorage for then a few hours?
Yeah.
You only spent a few hours in Anchorage, okay? So you get a ride with Annalise and who else?
That's the only person I know in the car. I just trust this person that told me that I'd be able to stay at her house, so.
Okay, so you go to her house by Sutton. You don't remember coming through Palmer?
I wasn't paying attention more.
Okay. What were you doing that you weren't paying attention?
Coughing, probably drunk. I don't know.
Okay.
I know I was drunk as fuck though. But, no, I wasn't really paying attention. If I were though, I would have probably remembered it.
Okay, so you get to Annalise's house, that's Monday morning early-ish, is that about correct?
Yeah.
Okay. You stay there,
Her trailer at first.
you slept in her trailer first, okay?
And then I went to the shed. The next day.
Now, do you stay in the shed the next night? In the shed the next night? So it'd be Monday night to Tuesday morning?
I stayed Monday morning to Tuesday daytime, and then I went there.
Okay, Monday morning to all the way Tuesday daytime, because that would have been
I
overnight.
stayed there for like 2 days. I slept 2 times there.
Once in the trailer, once in the shed?
Yeah.
Okay, so then that
I got
would
here
have,
Tuesday, so
oh, you couldn't have done that then?
yeah.
Unless you woke up twice one day.
I just remember sleeping, and that's what confused me when I was trying to tell you what was happening. Because
So either way, you stay there at her place, whether it's in the shed or in the trailer is inconsequential.
I was just trying to.
But then you come back here, and when you get back here, it's Tuesday or Wednesday the day I talked to you?
We talked Wednesday.
Right.
Tuesday, I came here like 11 at night, right?
Roughly, yeah.
Okay, so you came home,
Yeah, I literally
Tuesday at 11 p.m.?
I literally walked. Like, I got drunk so I wouldn't be cold, put a big blanket around me and a dress shirt on, and walked all the way here. And because I didn't have a ride.
Okay, so and you get back home. And you get back home at Tuesday at 11 p.m. And how are you communicating with Dad throughout this whole thing? Okay, through the tablet? Okay.
He was more communicating with me.
Okay. It was something to the effect of get home now or else kind of a thing?
It was just that he told me that, and I said, I mean, I was like, well, I told him.
So you come home and do you stay home Tuesday until I talk to you Wednesday? Okay.
He was like, no, I expected that.
So I think I talked to you Tuesday. Before you got home.
He was supposed to be home by 6, so that way he could talk to you.
He was what you said.
But you don't remember him leaving on Sunday night then?
I didn't tell him that.
I've been working on a testimony for a client so hard, and working real hard to get it done. My freaking hair. Because I haven't made anything or done anything for myself for my event coming up this weekend. So I needed that money because I sure as hell ain't gonna make them this week for not making anything.
So you basically, you're consumed by work, the kids are coming and going, not paying a whole lot of
I
attention.
don't even pay anything.
Gotcha. Let me ask you this. I called it Premier. Did I have any record you going into Anchorage with them? Why is that? Is it possible you didn't take Premier?
Possible, but I'm 90% positive that
Well, if it wasn't them, who would it be?
I have no idea. That's who I remember.
Who's Premier?
The taxi company.
And I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of it either. I had to Google it. Sure enough, it was a taxi service, and they do drive to Anchorage, like every other taxi service does. You said you paid for it with your own money. You had your own money? So you had his own money?
Only to me,
Okay.
I didn't ask me for anything.
Okay. Didn't I ask you for money? You say you paid. Do you remember how much you paid?
It was, I know I went out there with $120 and left with that, so.
Okay. But do you remember how much the taxi ride cost?
Yeah, I want to say, like, what I told you, I want to say probably around, like, what a taxi would cost.
Right, but that's what I'm asking. Like, when I asked you on Wednesday, you said either 60 or 120.
$62, $120. I just remember, something about $60 in my head from that night. I know I had 120 when I went out there, and I didn't have it when I went back.
But you don't remember how much you paid for the taxi? Okay. Do you understand that's weird to me?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
But I wouldn't be like, that's what I'm telling you. It's like when I was trying to explain where I slept, because I swear on almost everything, I slept 2 nights there. That's the thing.
Okay.
So that would be Sunday and Monday. You came home Tuesday.
Maybe I woke up at night on Tuesday night. I don't know. So I remember very definitely went to the trailer the first night. Daytime, went to the trailer, slept out there.
Okay.
I just decided to walk home because he was kind of mad at me about being home.
How do you know Annalise?
I don't know. My friend knows her.
Your friend knows her? Who's your friend that knows her?
He was Bradley. I met her at the party. I was just asking people if I knew her.
Was he the one that invited you to the party, or who invited you to the party?
Anthony Herring.
Anthony Herring invited you? Okay. And how do you know it's Anthony?
I know he knows me.
Does he live in Anchorage?
I think so.
You know how to get a hold of Anthony?
Same way I get over everyone on Facebook.
Gotcha. Alright. Was he at the party? Yeah. Okay. So, besides Anthony, besides Bradley, and this Annalise that you know through Bradley, who else is up at the party?
No one acted like that. I knew I just go to parties and they're all meet people and all. Like, I'll tell my name and they'll tell me their name, and I just won't even remember them at all.
So I'm asking, who can verify that you were at this party? Who can I talk to say, yep, Erick was here? Anthony? Okay. So he'd be the first one to go to? Okay. And just, he was at the party with you? And he's going to remember you being there? Okay.
There's no reason why he didn't.
Okay. And you get hold of him through Facebook? Does he have a handle, or does he use his real name? Okay, but on Facebook, is his name Anthony Herring on Facebook? Okay. And how old is Anthony? Okay. What middle school did you go to? Dealing? Anything else?
How old is he?
She looks around my age.
She's younger than the girl. Girl doesn't look like girl.
Yeah, she's got black hair, but I'm sorry, I have that silent hair. She has like a blue eyes. Kind of the nose.
And you didn't know her prior to going to Medford?
Could you drive us to where her house is if you had to?
No.
No?
I mean, you said you walked from there and you were sober.
No. No. I said I wasn't. I said I got really drunk before I left, so I wouldn't be cold.
Okay.
But I wouldn't feel it.
Sure. Was Grandma home the night that you went in Anchorage, do you think?
Upstairs,
Did she pay
At 7
attention?
o'clock, she goes up there and she's in her own world.
Gotcha. Sure. Okay.
The questions of the person that was paying attention to the game.
We talked to David.
Yeah, I don't think you guys are allowed to tell us what he said.
Yeah, normally yes.
I'll just call him again.
I don't tell him what you say. I can't tell you what he says. That's bad form.
Yeah, and you have to keep that stuff
And if
confidential.
you guys want to talk,
Yeah, I'll just talk.
yeah, it's perfectly acceptable for him to tell you what he told us. But I'm not gonna. All right. Why don't we head out?
Back soon.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's an ongoing investigation. I can tell you right now. I wish I could tell you more. You and I chat upstairs for a second. Thanks, Erick.
Judge, we just need to change our equipment around a little bit for the next witness, rearrange a little bit, and perhaps we can get a 5-minute break just to do that. The witness is here, we just need to reconfigure the
Let's
computer.
just take a 5 or 10 minute break. I'll be doing opportunity. Be off record. Okay, please be seated, everybody. Ms. Howard, you may call your next witness.
Thank you. The state will call Dustin Jorgensen.
Here, when you stand and raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear and or affirm that the testimony you give in this case should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please be seated. And will you just please state and spell your first and last name for the record?
My name is Dustin Jorgensen, Dustin Jorgensen.
And what is your occupation?
Alaska State Trooper.
Thank you so much.
As you spelled your last name, I just noticed that I spelled it wrong on the PowerPoint. It's S-E-N.
It is.
And we've kind of changed the witness stand a little bit so that you could see when we get into the PowerPoint, so you just have to turn a little bit when I ask you these initial questions. So how long have you been with the Alaska State Troopers?
Over 11 years.
And what is your current assignment?
I'm an investigator with the Alaska State Troopers Alaska Bureau of Investigation in the Technical Crimes Unit based out of Anchorage.
And how long have you been in that unit?
A little over 7 years.
And the jury has heard from several others in the Technical Crime Unit, but right now, how many investigators does the unit have?
Right now, the unit has 3 investigators, 1 sergeant investigator.
And can you describe your training as far as the Technical Crimes Unit goes? The training that you, just an overview of the training that you've received to work in that unit?
Sure. As a unit, we investigate a wide variety of technical aspects of crime. So my training consists of training in computer and mobile device forensics, as well as investigations into internet, social media activity, that kind of stuff. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in information technology with a focus on computer forensics.
And when you say social media, what sorts of social media do you generally deal with?
Several different sources. Big ones, obviously, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Kik, stuff like that.
And Kik, what is, I'm not familiar with that one.
It's another social media mobile application where people can converse, chat, meet, that kind of stuff on the internet.
How about MySpace? Is MySpace still a thing, or is that a thing in the past?
It used to be big several years ago. They are still around. They've kind of revamped their platform a little bit, but they're not as popular as they used to be.
In your training, have you had an opportunity to attend any trainings that these social media sites are at? So do you have an opportunity to converse with people from those companies, that sort of thing?
Not with the companies. I've been to conferences where the representatives for law enforcement speak that are they're employees of the company, but I don't interact with the actual employees themselves.
And training with respect to searching cell phones, you've been involved in?
I have.
And what sorts of programs have you received training in for the cell phones?
I've received on-the-job training in the UFED Celebrite device, which is a device that we use to examine mobile devices. Blacklight is another Macintosh or Apple-based examination platform. Those are the 2 big ones.
And I'm going to ask more questions about each of the social media and each of the programs used to search a cell phone when we get into particulars of your work with this case. But drawing your attention to November of 2016, were you working in the Technical Crimes Unit?
I was, yes.
And specifically December 18th of 2016, were you asked to assist in the investigation into the disappearance of David Grunwald?
Yes, I was.
And what if anyone did you meet with and discuss? Did you get a briefing on the case November 18th?
I did. I had met with Sergeant Wegson and was kind of briefed on the details of the case up until that date. And I was asked to assist with some of the more technological aspects of the investigation involving social media, the possible application for search warrants for mobile devices and the search of those devices as well.
Okay. And what was the first social media that you reached out to?
I believe it was Facebook.
Facebook. Prior to November 18th, were there any efforts made from other investigators to obtain any of the Facebook records?
I don't know that any efforts were made to obtain them. I know that some of the social media profiles, specifically Facebook profiles, of some of the individuals that were known to be associated with the case had been preserved.
Okay. And what does that mean when a Facebook profile is preserved?
When it's preserved, it's basically a letter or just some sort of request that we make to the social media company to preserve data for a specific user account. That way, it's set aside, so it's not changed should the user elect to delete or the company for some reason delete that data. It's preserved for us.
Preserved from the date of the preservation letter?
Correct.
And in this case, were you aware that Investigator Bartlett preserved Facebook accounts on November 15th of 2016?
I was, yes.
And do you recall whose Facebook accounts those were?
I believe those Facebook accounts were Erick Almandinger's. Gonna look at my report to refresh
Yes.
my collection if that's okay. Victoria McKelkey, David Evans, David Grunwald, and Andrew Bell Gleason.
So those individuals' Facebook accounts were preserved on November 15th of 2016?
I believe so, yes.
And just for people who might not be familiar with Facebook, when you say Facebook profiles, what does that mean?
That's basically somebody's, their account or their page. When someone creates a Facebook profile, they'll use an email address or a phone number. They'll sign up for the account. They'll put a picture of themselves or any picture they elect to maybe to represent their profile on the account. And when you go to somebody's Facebook page, you're basically looking at their profile. You see whatever picture they elected to have there. They'll have sort of like a news feed or a timeline of stuff that they post, and people comment on that kind of stuff. That's basically what the profile is.
And Facebook has a capability of messaging and that like a text message kind of?
It does. So Facebook is a web-based and a mobile-based platform. You can use it either through a mobile device or through a web on a desktop computer. Facebook also developed an application called Facebook Messenger, which is a separate application where people can exchange messages, and they can also place phone calls within the Facebook Messenger application.
And when a phone call is placed with Facebook Messenger, does it act just like a regular phone call, or is there pictures involved, or how does the phone call work?
It sort of acts like a regular phone call. It doesn't use the cellular network. It uses maybe the data part of that if they're not on a Wi-Fi network and if the device has that capability. But it's used in a similar way that a phone is.
When Facebook records are preserved, do you get the records at that time or no?
No, we do not.
So drawing your attention back to November 18th, did you meet anybody with Sergeant Wegson? Specifically, I'm looking at, did you meet with Victoria at her residence?
I did, yes.
And she gave you her iPhone to search at that time?
Correct.
Did you obtain, or did the Technical Crimes Unit obtain any other search warrants on November 18th?
I'm going to look at my
Yes.
report to refresh my memory if that's okay. Yes, an additional search warrant was obtained on the 18th for Erick Almandinger's tablet, which had previously been seized by Sergeant Wegson.
And were there search warrants obtained for Facebook accounts on November 18th? In addition, we've got that they were preserved, but now they're...
Yes, those search warrants were applied for and obtained for the Facebook accounts that I previously stated were preserved.
So David Grunwald.
Victoria McKelkey, David Evans, Erick Almandinger, and Andrew Bell Gleason.
So when a search warrant is obtained for Facebook records, what do you do then? How do you get the Facebook records?
We basically just scan a copy of the warrant. We forward it to Facebook. They have an online law enforcement portal that we use, and that satisfies the purpose of serving the warrant to Facebook. We basically upload a copy of the search warrant to them, outlining our request for records.
And does the search warrant include a date range?
It does.
Like, it's not an all-encompassing, I want everything that's been involved with this Facebook account?
No, it's not.
And then how do you obtain, when Facebook gets the search warrant, how does Facebook get TCU the records?
They send us an email, usually when the Facebook records are available for us to download. That gives us a link to follow to their law enforcement portal. We go to that portal and we download the records.
So you don't get a printed out version of the Facebook records?
No, we don't. They're digital copies, a PDF version and an archived file.
And did you obtain the Facebook records, David Grunwald, Victoria, David Evans, and Erick Almandinger,
Yes, I did.
on December 6th of 2016?
That sounds right, yes.
So when you download all the digital copies of all these Facebook records, had you printed out the records, how much volume would you be looking at?
Several binders full. There were thousands of pages.
And how do you go about searching the thousands of pages of Facebook records? Does it a manual search? Are you able to?
It's mostly a manual search. We can, a lot of that data it's going to include IP connection logs. When someone connected to their Facebook account, they had to have been connected to the internet somehow. So when they logged in, Facebook would record the IP address of where they logged in at. It would contain posts that they make, photos that they uploaded, and message conversations that they had. So we can, in the files they give us, we can target part of that file and say, okay, this is where the messages are located. And knowing the people that we know that were involved at the time, we can just use Control F on at least on a Windows computer. Will bring up a search box that we can type something in to search for some content in that file.
Okay, so the digital Facebook records includes the person's Facebook messages with other
It does, yes.
friends, I guess, on Facebook.
Yes.
Do the records also tell you if messages have been deleted from the account?
It does, yes.
And is the content of the message there, or is it just a?
It is not. It shows an author, a recipient, and then it just says where the body would be. I believe I don't know if it's there or somewhere else, and just in that block it just says the message was deleted, and there's no content.
So I want to ask you go to the tablet that was seized November 18th of 2016. And that was Erick Almandinger's tablet?
Yes.
So you previously admitted States Exhibit 9. Ask if you recognize that?
I do, yes.
And how do you recognize that?
This is Erick Almandinger's tablet. It was provided to me and examined as well by me.
Okay. And how about States Exhibit 10? Do you recognize that actually?
Yes, I do.
Okay, whose iPhone is that?
This was an iPhone seized from Dominic Johnson.
And did you do anything with that iPhone?
I did attempt an examination of it. However, it was password locked, and I was unable to complete any examination because of that password lock.
And then, to your knowledge, was that phone able to be examined by Brittany Johnson later on?
It was, yes.
States Exhibit 11.
This is an iPhone 5C, I believe, that was also seized from Dominic Johnson.
And were you able to examine that phone?
I was, yes.
Do you recall when that phone was seized? And if you don't, that's...
I don't recall the date it was seized, no.
So can you pick up the tablet there and just kind of describe this tablet to the jury? How does this thing work? What is it? Just a general description.
So this is a tablet. If you're familiar with like iPads, maybe about the approximate size of an iPad mini. So it's not a full-size tablet. It does have a SIM card with it. That SIM card allows this tablet to communicate on the data network in the cellular network. It doesn't operate like a cell phone does, so you can't really make cellular phone calls with it, but you can access the internet through the cellular data network. So that's the purpose of the SIM card with it. It's got a camera on the back. It's also got a front-facing camera, so pictures can be taken from the back of the tablet as well as the front by the user. It's got a typical just push-button on switch that would power the tablet on, and it runs the Android operating system.
And what is the Android operating system?
It's really just the operating system that runs on the tablet. The two big operating systems for mobile devices out there are Apple iOS and Android.
Okay. Did the tablet have a phone number associated with it? We heard testimony that the defendant's CDR records were obtained via...
It does, yes, because it's got this SIM card. It's got there has to be a phone number associated with that SIM card that allows the carrier to bill, I guess, the user of it and to track the data usage.
And do you recall what the phone number was for that tablet?
I don't recall the number, but I could refresh
Yes.
my memory from my report here. And this phone number is recorded on that SIM card, and that number is 907-707-3587.
And is the tablet capable of, I mean, I know it would be a rather large phone, but is it capable of being used as a phone, or just in just any way a phone would be used?
I think by default it is not capable of making a phone call using the cellular network. There's applications you can download to do like sort of a voice over internet phone call, but not in the traditional sense of a cell phone application.
But it's capable of making calls via Facebook Messenger.
Yes, it is.
So what did you do then with the tablet when you requested to examine it?
Usually during the beginning of our examinations, we just photograph the tablet. We take it off of the network so no changes can be made to the device. I removed the SIM card from it, took photos. My first attempt at examining the tablet, I used a device we call the UFED Cellbrite Touch, which is just a piece of hardware that we attached to the tablet that basically takes data from the tablet and processes it for me.
And were you able, you said your first attempt, did that?
Yeah, so the data that the UFED Cellbrite Touch was able to obtain from the tablet included photos, videos, some web, internet history, search history, and some contacts. That was really the biggest part of what it recovered. I had expected it to recover some Facebook messages or some other, maybe social media messages or communications. However, it did not do that.
And so what did you do did you make other attempts to obtain that information?
I did. Because the UFED Cellbrite Touch didn't extract that information, I had to do sort of a manual search of the tablet, which is basically me turning it on, taking a photo of the screen, opening the application, taking a photo of the screen again, and just manually taking photos of the screen as I navigated through the application.
As you manually searched through the tablet, did you make any observations regarding, you said you were looking for Snapchat, Facebook messaging, that sort of thing. Specifically with Snapchat, did you make any observations with respect to a Snapchat application?
I did. In the photos and videos that the UFED Cellbrite recovered, some of the file paths for the photos showed that they were in a Snapchat folder. However, during the manual examination of the phone, I did not see the Snapchat app, which has a very notable like ghost-shaped yellow icon. I did not see that during the manual examination. But I did see references to it in file paths that some of the photos were stored in, as well as in under the list of installed applications from the UFED.
Is there a term for when you manually search the tablet? Is that like you use the Cellbrite Touch for some content and is there a term for that type of manual search, or is it just, I just turned it on and?
We just call it a manual search. The Cellbrite actually has a function where we can hook a camera to the Cellbrite and use the Cellbrite to take pictures of the screen. I did that initially. The photos were low quality and hard to read, so I used another product basically that really just helps process the photos and compile them into a neat looking report called ZRT.
Okay. I asked because I'm going to be asking about your Cellbrite exam and then data and information that came from you, and I'm just going to use the term ZRT.
Okay.
May I approach?
You may.
Binder. And ask if you recognize this.
I do.
And what is that?
This is a printout of the PDF report generated by the UFED Cellbrite when I completed the examination.
So is this essentially the examination, the Cellbrite examination of the tablet?
It is.
I just want to just hold it up so the jury can appreciate the thickness of the exam. And I've tabbed, and I'm going to ask you some questions about the tabs in a little bit. Did your Cellbrite examination locate, you said photos, some videos, but specifically I want to ask you about photos. Locate photos that were on the tablet?
It did, yes.
And this will be, first PowerPoint's going to be States Exhibit 200.
Okay. Can you bring that up real quick? Parties want to come forward?
Want to let the jury know that you will get copies of these PowerPoints. They're in color. So the ones you see on the screen, those are actually the exhibits that you will have back with you.
Okay. 200, I believe, right? I'm not sure yet.
So, slide 1, what is this a picture of?
This is a picture of the tablet when you turn it on, before it's been, I guess, unlocked, you could say. So it's basically the lock screen of the tablet.
Thank you.
And slide number 2, this is previously admitted States Exhibit number 40. But were you able to, on your search of the tablet, can you tell the jury more information about this particular photo, as specifically when, the creation date, and the file path?
Sure. This has a modified date listed as October 23rd, 2016 at 5:12 a.m.
And what does that mean, the modified date?
It can mean a couple of things. Something happened to that photo on the device. It could have been put on the device. It could have been moved. But on October 23rd, 2016, that date and time was recorded on the device, or with the metadata of that photo on that date and time. So it could have been moved there, it could have been created at that time, but based just on the information I have there, that's about all I can say about it.
Okay. And as far as is there a particular path of this photo at all? Can you tell the jury anything about that?
Yeah, this the path is quite lengthy. It's Samsung GSM SMT337A Galaxy Tab. That's the model of the tablet. It says 4zip/shared0/Snapchat, and then it's got another / and then the file name, which is Snapchat 30881600.jpg.
And so what does that tell you that specifically that it includes the term Snapchat?
It tells me that the photo is affiliated with the Snapchat application. I can't say whether it was taken within or by the Snapchat application, but it appears it was either somehow exchanged with that or stored in a Snapchat folder location on the device.
And did you see this photo in multiple locations? Specifically, I'm going to go to the next slide, which is again previously admitted States Exhibit 40.
Okay. Yes.
And then where was the path?
So this one is located also in the default, you see the Samsung Galaxy Tab, make, model, that kind of stuff, the shared 0. And then it's in a pictures /Instagram folder. And then it's got the file name after that, IMG_2016 1023_060147.jpg.
And then this photo is previously admitted States Exhibit 44. What can you tell us about this? For this photo?
Similar to two photos ago, this one also has a file name with the word Snapchat in it, and the path that's located on the device is in a Snapchat folder.
And how about is there a creation date, modified date?
Yeah, the modified date for this is listed as 10/23/2016, 5:14 a.m.
And what does this appear to be? Next slide. What does this appear to be a photo of?
A firearm and a slice of pizza.
And is there a caption on this?
There is. Thaw Life.
And what can you tell us about this photo?
This photo also has the file name for the photo also contains Snapchat. It's located in the Snapchat folder on the device as well. It's got a modified date of 11/15/2016 at 2:10 in the afternoon.
And that'll be States Exhibit number 178. I'll move to admit.
Any objection?
No objection.
So admitted.
And how about this photo, which is States Exhibit 179?
Again, this photo has a file name with the word Snapchat in it. It's also located in the Snapchat folder on the device with a modified date of 10/26/2016 at 11:31 a.m.
And is this a photo of Erick Almandinger?
It is.
And what is he doing in this photo?
He's making a C sign with his hand.
Move to admit 179.
Can I just do a quick wedding on this photo? The last one? Officer, the photos that are on there doesn't necessarily, the photos in Snapchat doesn't necessarily mean the Snapchat user is the one that took them. It could have been sent to the Snapchat user?
That's possible, yes. I don't have enough information based on the information here that this photo was taken by any particular person.
Okay, and then the one, the Thug Life, that life one with the pizza, same thing, that photo is one that some third party could have sent to Erick Almandinger's Snapchat page, right?
That's possible, yes.
Okay. Admitted with those caveats, Judge.
Okay. So admitted.
And State's Exhibit 180.
This is again a picture with a Snapchat in the file name in the Snapchat folder on the device with a modified date of 10/22/2016 at 4 a.m.
And is this also a photo of Erick Almandinger?
It is.
And what is he doing in this photo?
He's again using his hand to make the shape of a C.
Move to admit 180.
No objection.
So admitted.
And State's Exhibit 124. What is this a photo of?
This is the photo of somebody's waistline with two firearms stuck into their pants. There's captions on it. There's it looks like a fireball up in the right-hand corner, top right-hand corner. 100 with two lines under it, and then under that says, I feel it 'cause.
And what can you tell us as far as the location and date, if any, of this photo?
This photo also has the Snapchat word in the file name, and it's located in the Snapchat folder on the device. The modified date is listed as 11/10/2016 at 3:51 p.m.
And when it's on this device, when a photo is in the Snapchat folder, how does a photo get to the Snapchat folder? Is it an automatic from Snapchat, or is it something where the photo has to be saved in a folder? Or what can you tell us about that?
I don't know enough about the Snapchat application itself to know whether it places it in any certain folder, but it appears that being the file has the Snapchat in the name, and it's in a Snapchat folder, the application puts it there.
And that, because you indicated that the Snapchat application didn't appear to be on the tablet anymore?
That's
But
correct.
the folder was still on the tablet?
As far as what the user of the tablet could see, the Snapchat application was not there.
Move to admit 124.
No objection.
So admitted.
And State's Exhibit number 1, I believe this is previously admitted, number 29. What can you tell us about this photo?
This photo also has the word Snapchat in it, located in the Snapchat folder on the device with a modified date of 10/21/2016 at 1:44 in the morning. This is also a photo of Erick Almandinger holding up two fingers and a caption underneath that says, "Kill us."
And did you also, and I'll ask you about specifically Snapchat records that you obtained, but just because we're on this photo here, did you also see this photo contained within Snapchat records?
I did, yes.
And this is State's Exhibit 181. What does this appear to be a photo of?
This photo is maybe a little hard to see. It's dark. It appears to be Erick Almandinger pictured in the photo, making a circle with his index finger and thumb. There's a caption under it that says "BK every day," with an icon of a revolver and an emote icon.
And where was this photo located?
This photo is also located in the Snapchat folder on the device, and it has Snapchat in the file name. The modified date for this is 10/20/2016 at 5:26 a.m.
Move to admit 181.
No objection.
So admitted.
This is previously admitted State's Exhibit number 39. What is the date, if any, and location of this photo?
Modified date for this photo is 10/21/2016 at 2:41 p.m. The location is also in the Snapchat folder on the tablet. It's also got Snapchat in the file name.
State's Exhibit 183. I believe we have not, I've moved to admit this photo. I think we did use it when questioning David Evans, but if you could tell us date and any location of this photo.
Modified date listed for this photo is 10/26/2016 at 3:37 p.m. It's got, the file name is screenshot, and the date 2016 10/26/15/3707.png. It is located in a pictures /screenshot folder on the device.
And what can you tell us about that if it's located in a screenshot?
It's typically where a device stores screenshots taken on the device. There's usually mobile devices, tablets, phones, have a function where you can press a certain number of keys or a certain combination of keys, and it'll take a screenshot of what's pictured on the device at the same time. In this case, it appears to be a screenshot of a Snapchat photo.
Move to admit 183.
No objection.
So admitted.
This states Exhibit 184. Where was this photo located?
This is another photo with screenshot in the file name located in the pictures /screenshot folder on the device.
And any date associated with this photo?
Yes, modified date listed is 10/26/2016 at 3:59 p.m.
Move to admit 184.
No objection.
So admitted.
States Exhibit 186. What is the path for this photo?
This path is the same as the last couple. It's in the pictures /screenshot folder. Also has a screenshot in the file name of the photo.
And any modified date for this photo?
Yes, 10/26/2016 at 9:22 p.m.
And how about this photo? What can you tell us about this photo?
This photo has a modified date of November 15, 2016 at 5:48 p.m. It is a screenshot in the screenshots folder on the device. It's got screenshot in the file name, followed by 2016-11-15-17-48-31.png for the file name.
What's our next one? Our next one.
Remind me, which one is that one? Because I'm trying to write the dates on the list. Is it the number for that one? Oh, yeah.
So this will be State's Exhibit number 238. And move to admit.
So admitted.
And this will be State's Exhibit 239. What does this appear to be?
All I can really make out from the photo is somebody's leg. The file name has a screenshot in it, followed by the date 2016-11-15-17-48-34. This image is located in the pictures /screenshot folder on the device and has a modified date of 11/15/2016 at 5:48 p.m.
And what can you tell us about, if you look at the top right-hand corner of this photo, there's like a circle which looks like a person's face. Does that tell you anything about where this photo is from?
Yeah, I believe it looks like it's probably possibly a screenshot from some social media application, either Facebook Messenger or Snapchat.
Move to admit 239.
No objection.
So admitted.
This will be State's Exhibit 240. Is there a date associated with this photo?
There is. That date is 11/15, excuse me, 11/15/2016 at 5:48 p.m.
And how about path for this photo?
This photo also has a file name with a screenshot followed by a date. File path is in the Pictures, Screenshots folder on the device.
Move to admit 240.
No objection.
So admitted.
State's Exhibit 241. What was the date, if any, for this photo?
Date for this photo is 11/15/2016 at 5:48 p.m. It also has a screenshot in the file name followed by a date, and it is also in the Pictures/Screenshots folder on the device.
Move to admit 241.
No objection.
So admitted.
And this next slide contains two different photos. I'll start with the one in the upper left corner. How and where, how was this obtained from Erick Almandinger's tablet?
This was just another photo located on the device. The file path is .face/92. I can't say where on the device that is or what application it's associated with.
Is there a date associated with it?
Yeah, the date associated with it is 11/15/2016 at 7:32 p.m.
And is that a photo of David Grunwald?
It is, yes.
And how about in the lower right-hand corner?
This photo has the same file path. It's off by one number, 93 instead of 92 would be the folder that it's in. It has a date associated with it as 11/15/2016 at 7:33 p.m.
Any way that you could tell how these particular photos made it onto the tablet? As far as were they Snapchatted, screenshots?
It's hard to say. In the upper left-hand photo, up right above the picture of David Grunwald is it's hard. It might maybe hard for the jury to see, but it says _Davy Baby _, and I know that based off of the investigation that is his Instagram username.
That's David's Instagram?
Yes.
Username? And how about this photo that you located?
This photo has a modified date of 11/15/2016. It's 7:32 p.m. It's got screenshot in the file name followed by a date, and is located in the Pictures/Screenshot folder on the device.
And the fact that this photo, which appears to be a photo of David Grunwald, as well as his missing Bronco,
Yes.
what can you, as far as if this is in the screenshot, and we see that same icon in this photo up in the right-hand corner,
Yes.
what can you tell us about?
That suggests to me that this photo was exchanged in some sort of social media conversation, whether through Facebook Messenger or Snapchat.
Move to admit Exhibit 200.
No objection.
So admitted.
I want to stay with the tablet for a second, if I may. As I indicated, I tabbed some of the printed out version of the tablet, so I just want to ask you to go to the first, flip to the first tab. And specifically, were you able to, in your examination, determine any particular search for items from the tablet?
Yes, the UFED sub, right, when that tablet was processed, did process some items it classified as searched items. And the search terms it's giving me are preceded by the word Chrome, which indicates to me it's from the Google Chrome browser. And these searches are Crip, gang-related pendants, gold and diamonds, gang-related pendants, gold and diamonds, gang, rip, pendants, gold and diamonds, crip, pendants, gold and diamonds, crip, pendants, gold, AMD, diamonds, crip, pendants, crip, 6-point star, meaning 6-star crip.
And were you able to tell any sort of date associated with when these items were searched for?
Not from the searched items list.
Okay. How about from any other part of your examination?
Yes, the UFED Cellbrite also processed some web history data from the device as well. And I believe some of that data had dates and times associated with it.
Going to turn. And have I flipped here to that particular web history?
Yes.
Okay. And so some of those terms are, the terms that you just read are highlighted?
Yes.
Okay, so can you tell us the term and the date that's associated with it?
Yeah, there's crip pendants here that's shown in web history with the date of 10/19/2016 at 6:11 p.m. Then there's crip necklaces. There's I guess the little pipe icon, crip dog tags, necklace, charms, pendants with the date of 10/19/2016 at 6:11 p.m. Unique crip related items, Etsy, at 10/19/2016 at 6:12 p.m. Crip pendants Google search at 10/19/2016 at 6:12 p.m. Another crip pendants Google search on 10/19/2016 at 6:12 p.m. Crip pendants gold and diamonds Google search at the same time, 10/19/2016 at 6:12 p.m. There are seconds listed that are different. Another crip pendants gold and diamonds Google search at the same time, within about 10 seconds of the previous search. Another crip pendants gold and diamonds Google search about a minute later, 6:13 on 10/19/2016.
I want to go to talk specifically about the defendant's Snapchat. Did you obtain, let me ask about Snapchat in general. You obtained some Snapchat records for this case?
Yeah, I did, yes.
And how many Snapchat accounts did you obtain?
Several. I'd have to look at my report to refresh my memory on the exact number.
Okay.
That's okay.
Ms. Howard, are you done with the PowerPoint?
We're going to go to the next part.
Okay.
What is what? Exhibit 200.
Well, 200 is the whole thing. It's the whole PowerPoint. So
Right.
she didn't probably individually identify those. Right, you're not individually identifying.
Right, some of the photos are contained within the PowerPoint.
Okay.
And some are individually.
So some of them
I think there's about 7 different Snapchat records. There's 7 different users.
Okay. So what is Snapchat? Can you tell us?
Snapchat is a purely mobile-based social media application that allows users to share photos, videos, chat messages. One of the things about Snapchat is when you send a photo with Snapchat, that photo expires or it self-deletes after a certain period of time that the taker or the sender of the photo elects. So it's made kind of sort of for privacy, I guess. If you you take a selfie, say, and you send it to somebody, the photo that you sent them is going to disappear. It's going to delete itself after a certain amount of time, possibly up to, I believe, 10 seconds. If the user takes a screenshot of that, the user that sent it is notified of that. So it's a social media application that's really centered around like privacy. And you can also share stories with it, similar to like how you would have a Facebook feed. You can take pictures and create sort of like a daily timeline of what you do using these stories. And Snapchat also has a built-in chat application where you can exchange messages in a similar fashion that you do with Facebook Messenger. However, the messages do also self-delete after a certain period of time.
So when you obtain Snapchat records, how do those records come to TCU?
Snapchat records are, the request for them was a search warrant that was served through email, and they also email the records back to me, or they email me a link to, I believe it's some cloud storage service that I go to download the records.
And with Snapchat, everything that's posted or shared, does it eventually go away on its own, or is it something that has to be deleted?
It eventually goes away on its own, unless it's preserved or saved by the user.
And can the user also exchange videos via Snapchat?
They can, yes.
And you obtained Erick Almandinger Snapchat records?
I did, yes.
And was that roughly or on November 23rd of 2016?
That sounds right, yes.
Do you recall Erick Almandinger's Snapchat username?
I do. It is Erick is awesome, all one word.
And contained within Erick Almandinger's Snapchat account, were you able to, were there photos?
There were.
How about videos?
There were a few videos, yes.
See States Exhibit number 201.
Any objection?
No.
So admitted. PowerPoint presentation. You may.
And first slide, this is States Exhibit 185. Is this a photo that was contained within the defendant's Snapchat records?
It is, yes.
And is there a caption on this particular photo?
There is, written in blue lettering, "And when I go, lay me in a blue coffin."
And can you tell from the records whether this is a photo that the defendant sent to someone else or someone else sent to the defendant?
Yes, you usually can tell that.
And this particular photo, do you recall whether or not this photo was sent or someone else sent this photo to the defendant?
I don't recall if this was a photo the defendant either sent or received.
And does the Snapchat record itself tell you that information that's attached to each particular photo?
It does. The Snapchat records come in the file names of these photos usually have some sort of identifier in them. It's usually alphanumeric, and then it also comes with sort of like an Excel spreadsheet type of file with that lists the communications. And if there's a communication in which a photo or a video is exchanged, next to the message in the spreadsheet, it lists a media identifier which associates the image or the video that Snapchat provided with the conversation. So.
Okay. And Judge Economy first?
You may.
Do you see what I'm handing you now, what you're the path for this particular photo?
I do, yes.
Okay, and does that help refresh your recollection as far as whether the defendant said this Snapchatted or someone else Snapchatted?
It does, yes.
Okay, and what can you tell us then about this photo?
This photo was sent by the defendant to someone else.
Move to admit 185.
So admitted.
This states previously admitted photo number 41. Is this a photo that was all located on the defendant's Snapchat account?
Yes, it is.
Okay. States previously admitted Exhibit 36. Is this another photo located on the defendant's Snapchat account?
It is, yes.
Move to admit 36.
No objection.
So admitted.
Okay. States Exhibit 32. Was this a photo located on the defendant's Snapchat?
Yes, it is.
Move to admit 32.
No objection.
So admitted.
Okay. And is this a photo located on the defendant's Snapchat account?
It is, yes.
Did you also obtain the Snapchat records for Devin Peterson
I did, yes.
and Dominic Johnson?
Yes.
Did you locate this photo also on Devin Peterson and Dominic Johnson's Snapchat?
I believe it was, yes.
And based on your investigation in the case, are you familiar with the people involved in the investigation as far as Erick Almandinger, Dominic Johnson, Austin Barrett, Bradley Renfro?
I am, yes.
Does that appear to be a photo of Austin Barrett?
It does.
And specifically with a blue arrow pointing to Austin Barrett?
Yes.
Call that State's Exhibit 242.
No objection.
So admitted.
State's Exhibit 30. Is this a photo located on the defendant's Snapchat account?
It is.
Move to admit 30?
No objection.
I was admitted, but that's fine.
Okay.
It's 30 already admitted.
That's what our list shows it has been.
So admitted.
State's Exhibit number 29 that we previously saw from the tablet search, but was this photo also located in Snapchat?
It was, yes.
And then this appears to be a photo of David Grunwald?
Yes,
And was this photo contained within the defendant's Snapchat records?
it was.
Okay. And State's Exhibit 31? Is this also a photo contained within the defendant's Snapchat records?
It is.
Move to admit 31.
Objection.
So admitted.
And you said that you located some videos within the defendant's Snapchat records,
That's right.
and we've previously admitted a video, I think it was State's Exhibit Video 41, but, of the defendant when he appeared to have peed on himself, peed his pants, and then we've heard testimony in the shed. Did you also locate that video in the defendant's Snapchat records?
Yes, I did.
And were you able to tell from the video how that video came to be in the Snapchat records, whether or not the defendant sent it to someone or someone sent it to him?
It was sent to the defendant by Dominic Johnson.
It's 196 on our list.
State's Exhibit 196. Do you recall when that video was sent to the defendant?
The date and time was 11/15/2016 at 4:49 p.m.
And was that sent from Dominic Johnson's Snapchat account?
It was.
Move, I think I might have already done it. Move to admit 201.
Objection.
201, so admitted.
I'm going to shift gears and talk about Dominic Johnson. You testified that you searched Dominic Johnson's iPhone, his 5C phone.
That's correct.
And what application or what program did you use to conduct that search?
The same one as the is Erick Almandinger's tablet, the UFED Cellbrite Touch.
And were you able to obtain data from that phone?
I was, yes.
This would be State's Exhibit 202.
No objection.
Yeah. So it's admitted at this time, Ms. Howard.
State's Exhibit 38. Do you recognize that photo?
I do, yes.
What is that a photo of?
It's a photo of Erick Almandinger in the background, making C shapes with his fingers. This is the home screen of the phone.
This is the home screen of Dominic Johnson's iPhone.
Yes. In the background.
Move to admit.
No objection.
So admitted.
And what is this a photo of?
This is a photo of a Snapchat chat thread in the phone.
And what can you tell us about this Snapchat thread?
The top photo is a photo sent from the contact in the phone named Eric. This is a picture similar to that was shown previously with Barrett in the background, with blue writing "Maniga" on it with an arrow pointing back.
So was that photo sent to Dominic Johnson or from Dominic Johnson?
To Dominic Johnson.
From Eric?
Yes.
Okay. And then what's going on with the second? Do you also recognize that second photo?
I do. It was, I believe that same photo was on the, it was either in the Snapchat records or on the tablet. I can't make out what's pictured there, though.
And so what can you say about this photo, though? Was it sent or received?
Oh, it was sent to Eric from Dominic Johnson's Snapchat account.
And how about the thread here?
This looks like a continuation of the thread. Eric sends Dominic Johnson the 780 NSD drive. Dominic Johnson sends Eric a photo of Eric.
And do you also recognize both those photos from either the tablet search or the defendant's Snapchat records?
I do, yes.
And those photos aren't independent exhibits, they're contained within the PowerPoint. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of records that you reviewed. How would you characterize the volume of records that the Technical Crimes Unit received as far as social media records?
I would say that's the largest volume of social media records that in my 7 years in the unit I've ever had to look through and analyze. It was huge, and if printed out, it would take up volumes.
Were you able to create, for the investigation, were you able to go through the social media records and pull out conversations between who the troopers identified as relevant people?
I was, yes.
And what did you do with that information?
I took the conversations between the people that we had identified to be involved as part of the investigation, and because there were Facebook records and Snapchat records, and those records don't necessarily contain the same conversations, I compiled them into basically an Excel spreadsheet to make them easier to read.
And approximately how many pages was your Excel spreadsheet, if you recall?
I never printed it off, so I couldn't say it was very long.
Did you, were you able to identify conversations between Erick Almandinger and Dominic Johnson?
I was.
And did you put those conversations in the Excel spreadsheet?
I did.
And were you able to date and time those messages?
Yes, I was.
Were you also able to tell where those messages came from, as far as Erick Almandinger's Facebook account or Dominic Johnson's Facebook account?
I was.
So we states Exhibit 203. I'll go ahead and move to admit.
So admitted 203.
And if it could be helpful if you could, that's why we put the pointer there, so you could reference which messages you're specifically talking about. But when's the first message sent and who's it to, and if you could just go down with the messages.
Sure. So the first message is from Dominic Johnson to Erick Almandinger on November 13, 2016 at 17:45 or 5:45 p.m. And this record is from Almandinger's Facebook.
And what does Dominic say?
Dominic says, "Can you taxi?"
And is there a response from Erick?
Erick's response is, "Who's coming?"
Okay. And is there a response from Dominic?
Yeah, Dominic responds a minute later, "Brad, for now, I think." Erick responds, "Okay, deal." And then where the taxi going? Dominic responds about a minute later, 5:47. Could you hook it up with a ride for me and Austin, though, on some real shit? Eric responds with WYM, or what you mean. Dominic responds with, and 2155 and Kentucky Derby Drive. Dominic goes on to say, we need a ride to Walmart, but there's a taxi that only costs $5. Then at 5:43, there's a call, a Facebook call from Dominic to Eric that lasts about 54 seconds. Then Dominic says, one, we, then he says one, then he says sec. That's it for that slide.
Okay. And does the conversation continue November 13th?
It does. We're still on the 13th at about 5:54 in the evening now. Dominic says to Eric, we're going to walk. LOL. Eric says, I got it. Brad, stay in night, y'all. Leaving later. TP today, or TP day. Then he says today. And Eric says to Dominic, do we got to walk to you or TP you? I was about to call a taxi. Eric says, isn't that what he said, though, or meant? Dominic says, Brad's staying the night, and I think me and Austin are leaving. IDK, or I don't know yet. 11:56, Eric tells Dominic, okay, deal. And Eric says, David should be over later tonight. We're drinking tonight, or I am anyway. Ha ha. Do I got to call a taxi, or do I got to walk? Where y'all walking, fro? Dominic tells Eric, Alyssa's.
And what time was that last one on this slide?
At 5:56 p.m.
Okay. Next slide, please.
5:57, Dominic tells Eric, I don't know where I am. Brad says it's not far. Eric says, okay, haha. And Eric says, okay, yeah, okay. I'm trying to walk too, though. Eric says, the drunk walk. Dominic says, deal. Eric says, do you have a needle and thread? And that's at 6:04 p.m.
On the 13th?
On the 13th.
Okay.
Still on the 13th at 6:22 p.m. These messages are all from Dominic to Eric. Dominic says, we're at the camper. WID, what you doing? We just got locked in. Dominic tries to call Eric twice, and neither call goes through Facebook.
And what time were the attempted calls?
7:25 and 7:39 on the 13th.
Okay.
Still at the 13th at 7:44 p.m. Eric tells Dominic, nig. Eric makes a Facebook call to Dominic that lasts for 68 seconds. Eric makes another call to Dominic with Facebook that lasts for 13 seconds. At 7:54, Dominic tells Eric, nig. Eric says, what up? Eric says, my dad's being a pussy bitch, but David has to leave tomorrow, so I'm out tomorrow too, I guess. That was at 8:07. Dominic tells Eric, I feel it. Eric says, we can come back and rob the fridge, but I'll plug that bitch in. R now, IG, ig. Dominic tells Eric, bet.
And what time was
that? That is at 8:07 p.m. on the 13th.
Okay.
We're still at 8:07 on the 13th. Eric tells Dominic, can't have the lights on though, okay? Just the heater if you find it. Dominic says, okay, deal. Dominic says, are you coming inside?
And what time was that message?
That is 8:07 p.m. on the 13th. 8:08, Eric replies, okay, deal. You got a place David and I can rest our heads for a minute. And Eric tells Dominic, no, I probably won't. Eric tells Dominic to sketch TN, corrects it to RN, or right now. At 8:08, Dominic tells Eric, nope, I don't even have anywhere to rest my head. Eric says, Dad will know I'm gone and will expect me in the trailer, and he'll C-O, E out there. 8:08, Dominic tells Eric, oh, sketch.
And this is 8:08 on November 13th.
It is.
Okay.
We're still on the November 13th at 8:09. Erick tells Dominic, shit, so you want to stick together with me then? Be homeless homies? It's harder to find places to go when you're with a larger group, but I'll be homeless tomorrow, so may as well. Dominic replies, could I borrow a Thule?
What time was that message?
That is at 8:09 p.m. on the 13th.
Okay.
Dominic then says, I gotta go get some shit tomorrow. I don't know what time, but we can meet back up tomorrow. And Dominic says, again a minute later, let me get that 4.0,
What time was that message?
8:10 p.m. on the 13th.
And
Erick
does Erick respond?
Erick responds, also at 8:10, okay, yeah, I'll have a tent and too many bottles, TP carry, and too much stuff to bring with me. Then Erick says a minute later, or at 8:11, everyone asking for my Thule makes me sketch, plus I had bad vibes about not holding it. At 8:11, Dominic tells Erick, like, I'm your nig, I kind of need it. Then at 8:11, Dominic tells Erick, if anything happens, you're not going to get involved and you're going to get it back.
Okay.
And so we're still on the November 13th at 8:12. Erick tells Dominic, fuck, I don't know how. Maybe I'll tell my dad I'll come back if I need to. I have a different Thule. Nig, I'm not worried about the law. Then he's got two smiley faces. At 8:12, Erick tells Dominic, shit, I got a lot more to worry about, RN. And Erick says to Dominic, where to go tomorrow, LOL. Ig, we take the heater, the tent, and the food. At 8:13, Dominic tells Erick, I know, I just like the 40 for better protection, I guess. Erick replies, I don't know where we're going to live, to be honest. TBH, LOL, I don't care. I just don't want to have to carry all this shit.
And what time was that message?
And that is on the 13th at 8:13 p.m.
Okay.
On the 13th at 8:14 p.m., Dominic tells Erick, and how about if you let me use it? I'll give you like $80 tomorrow, if not more. Dominic then says to Erick, I'll try to find somewhere to go. Erick then tells Dominic, I'm going out of town this weekend, though that's for sure. Dominic then tells Erick, I feel it. Erick says, I mean, I'll try to, but I'm just not trying to pass my 40 around, but we'll talk in person. And there's some typos, try and TP pass. And that's at 8:14 on the 13th.
Erick tells Dominic we'll talk in person.
Yes, I mean, I'll try to, but I'm just not trying to pass my 40 around, but we'll talk in person. Yeah?
With a question, is that?
With a question mark, yeah.
Okay.
We're still on the 13th at 8:15 p.m. Dominic tells Erick, can't talk in person. Do you want to bet? Can't talk in person. Do you want to be let in on something? Dominic tells Erick, like you can't tell David. Or anyone, swear. At 8:15, Erick tells Dominic, later tonight probably when my dad slumps, to be honest, few hours. SSDLY. I don't know, I want to hang with y'all, but he'll come out. And Erick says to Dominic, go for it, let me in, but not on Messenger.
What time was that?
That is at 8:15 p.m. Then Dominic tells Erick a minute later at 8:16, well, I gotta act fast, like RN fast. And Dominic says, you feel me. At 8:16, Erick tells Dominic, you know nothing will get said if you tell me. Yeah, I feel it. At 8:16, Erick tells Dominic, SC it to me, not over FB. At 8:16, Dominic tells Erick, bet. Erick says to Dominic, if you decide to tell me, that is low, LO. And Erick says LOL.
And when was that last message?
8:16 p.m. on the 13th.
On November 13th, okay. So this, this string of messages from November 13th of 2016, whose Facebook records did this conversation come from?
These are all from Erick Almandinger's Facebook records.
And how many sets of Facebook records did you get for Erick Almandinger?
I believe there were 3 sets.
And did each set have a different, a different date associated with it?
They did, yes.
And you testified previously about the preserved records from November 15th of 2016?
Correct.
And then you obtained 2 other sets of records?
That's right.
Okay. So this particular conversation on November 13th, which set of records were you able to get this conversation from?
These are from the records that were preserved on November 15th.
Did you see this conversation in the later records, specifically the December 5th records?
I did not.
Did you see in those records, if you did you not see the body of the conversation, or did you not see the conversation at all?
I did not see the body of the conversation. I saw messages that said deleted.
So between November 15th and December 5th, this conversation between Erick Almandinger and Dominic Johnson was deleted from Erick Almandinger's Facebook account.
That's right.
How about with respect to Dominic Johnson's Facebook account? Did this conversation show up anywhere in his records?
I don't believe it did, no.
Did it show up as deleted in his records?
I believe it did, yes.
Next one.
Shall we continue?
Yeah, so now we're into November 17th through the 18th of 2016.
So the first message here is November 17th, 2016 at 9:03 p.m. Dominic makes a Facebook phone call to Eric that lasts 380 seconds. The next day, just after noon, Dominic makes another Facebook call to Eric that does not go through, that's 0 seconds. A few hours later at 3:07 on the 18th, Dominic calls Eric again. The call lasts 39 seconds. A few minutes later at 3:12, Dominic makes another call to Eric on Facebook that lasts 296 seconds. A couple of minutes after that, at 3:14, Dominic sends a message to Eric, but it was deleted in the Facebook records. Same with Eric's reply at 3:19. Or Eric sent a message to Dominic on 3:19. On the 18th at 3:19 p.m. that was deleted.
So you could see that a message was sent, but the actual content was deleted.
That's right. And then on November 18th at 3:54 p.m., Eric makes a Facebook phone call to Dominic that lasts 2,094 seconds. And on at 3:56, Eric makes another call to Dominic that doesn't go through. And then between 4:35 p.m. on the 16th through 5:35 p.m. on the 16th, there's some messages that are exchanged, but were deleted.
Okay. And we've heard, I believe we listened to the interview, the defendant was interviewed by Alaska State Troopers on November 18th of 2016, and that's when his tablet was seized.
Yes, I believe so. The last line there is a Facebook phone call from Dominic to Eric that didn't go through, 0 seconds, and that was on the 18th at 5:36 p.m.
And does this slide show a list of deleted messages between Dominic Johnson and Erick Almandinger?
It does, starting from 12:53 p.m. on November 21st, going through 2:25 p.m. on the 21st. And then this slide ends with a phone call, a Facebook phone call from Dominic to Erick that lasts 206 seconds at 2:55 p.m. on the 21st.
And these deleted messages were obtained from Dominic Johnson's Facebook records?
Yes, they were.
Were these messages also deleted from Erick Almandinger's Facebook records?
I believe so, yes.
And now we're into November 23rd through November 24th of 2016.
Okay, these are records from Dominic Johnson's Facebook, starting on November 23rd, 2016 at 1:21 p.m. Dominic tells Erick, actually no, this is a Facebook phone call from Dominic to Erick that doesn't go through, it lasts 0 seconds or isn't picked up. At 1:26 p.m. on the 23rd, Dominic tells Erick, hey. Erick replies, you good? WYA? Question mark. At 1:29 p.m., Dominic tells Erick, ye, I'm walking to you, nig. Dominic tries to call Erick on Facebook. The call doesn't get picked up or go through. Dominic tells Erick, at 1:36, WYD, what you doing? Next message is from Dominic to Erick at 5:01 on the 24th. It says, hi.
Okay, next. And now are we on November 25th of 2016?
Yes, and these are from Erick Almandinger's Facebook records. On November 25th, 2016 at 3 p.m., Erick makes a phone call to Dominic that doesn't go through. He tries again about 6 minutes later at 3:06 p.m. That Facebook call did not go through. It's just shortly after that call, Erick sends Dominic a message, wait, can you not call? And then Erick sends Dominic a message, LOL. Dominic replies, ye. Erick says to Dominic, wait, you can or can't? Dominic tells Erick, can't. Erick tells Dominic, shitty. Dominic tells Erick, FR. And then at 3:08 p.m., Erick tells Dominic, before y'all come over, HMU hit me up, and we'll have to be hella quiet because I'm not trying to get caught, LOL. Should I ask my GMA if just you can come over so any loud voices that are heard that aren't mine can be excused? Dominic replies to Erick at 3:09 p.m., ye.
And the phone, Dominic Johnson's iPhone 6 that Brittany Johnson testified about, that and that you tried to get into, that phone was seized on November 24th, 2016, if you recall?
I don't recall.
Okay. Still on November 25th?
Yes, November 25th at 3:09 p.m., Dominic tells Erick, is your dad for sure not coming back? Erick tells Dominic a few minutes later, I'm going to make sure tonight around 5, I'm going to ask, is it okay to lock the doors all nice and tight, or should I expect you to be coming through one tonight? Then Erick says to Dominic, and his answer will tell me. Erick then says to Dominic whether he will be. Dominic says to Erick, okay, deal, WYD. Erick says to Dominic, used to do that shit with my mom all the time. Erick says to Dominic at 3:12 p.m., smoking, looking for my Henny bottle, a couple of smiley faces, I can't find it. Dominic says to Erick, no way, at 3:13 p.m. on the 25th.
Okay.
This is still the 25th at 3:13 p.m. Eric says to Dominic, honestly, IDC, haha, but now I'm cooling on this recliner. Maybe watch some TV. Dominic tells Eric, maybe. Eric tells Dominic, yeah, haha, I will. Yeah, haha, I will. Haven't done that in so long. Dominic tells Eric, I'm kind of high. Eric tells Dominic, like cable. Dominic tells Eric, cable's lit sometimes. At 3:14, Eric tells Dominic, oh, I'm high, haha, I went driving with my GMA today, and you know I'm good at everything, so my first parallel park was 1 hundo. Dominic says to Eric, aye, that's what's up.
Okay. And then did the conversation continue on November 25th?
It does, and we're at 4:41 p.m. Eric tells Dominic, WYD. Dominic tells Eric, coolin', trying to come over. Eric tells Dominic, I don't want home till tomorrow night, but leave the front door unlocked tomorrow. If things go right, I'll be home between 10:30 and midnight. Eric then tells Dominic, way he said. Dominic tells Eric, so he's not coming back tonight, or Eric tells Dominic, he's not coming tonight. Dominic tells Eric, did you ask if I can come over? Eric tells Dominic, should I? We're at 4:57 p.m. Eric tells Dominic, because if she says no, then she'll be extra mad. Eric tells Dominic, when I do anything, haha. Dominic tells Eric at 4:58, I don't know.
Okay. And in this next slide, does the conversation continue on the 25th about Dominic coming over to Eric's house?
It appears that way, yes.
Okay.
So we're on the 25th still at 4:58 p.m. Eric tells Dominic, but there's a good chance she'll say yes because she's in a happy mood. Dominic says, why's that? Eric says, because my dad's gone and I went to lunch with that bitch. Dominic tells Eric, oh, ha ha ha. Eric tells Dominic, should I ask or just not ask? Dominic says, ask, and then says, keep asking until she says yes. Eric says, no, that's not how it goes with my GMA, LOL. Dominic says, oh, LOL, well, it's up to you. Eric tells Dominic, I'll ask. I'm just too lazy. My dad said no one here while he's gone, but it's my GMA's house, so, and she didn't tell me that, and I always just have people over. Eric then tells Dominic at 5:03 p.m. on the 25th, whenever with her, so fuck what my dad says.
Okay. And we don't have to go through each of these messages, but this is the continuing conversation on the 25th between Dominic and Erick Almandinger about Dominic being at Eric's house.
It is.
And we can go to the next slide. So this is now on November 27th. Are there continuing associations between Dominic Johnson and Erick Almandinger?
There are. These messages start at about 5 o'clock in the morning. On the 27th, Dominic tells Eric, tries to make a Facebook call to Eric that doesn't get picked up or go through. Later that day at 2:30, Dominic tells Eric, because if a nigga violates, we got 100 clips. And Dominic tells Eric later that night at 11:49 p.m., cuz. Eric replies, Dominic says, WID at 11:55 p.m. on the 27th.
And then are there continuing associations between Dominic Johnson and Erick Almandinger on November 28th of 2016?
There are.
And that included some phone calls as well as some messaging?
Yes.
Is that a good place to stop, Ms. Howard?
It is.
Okay. Okay, members of the jury, we are having our lunch break. You can report back at 1:20. We'll go back on record at 1:30. And we are now off record.
But that's fine.
Okay. All righty, go ahead, Mr.
Thank you.
Conte.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ward. First of all, tell us, how old are you right now?
19 years old.
And you said you worked at Fred Meyer?
I worked at Fred Meyer since last February.
And what do you do there?
I'm a home associate.
And do you live in the valley?
Yes, sir, I do.
And are you familiar with the person by the name of Erick Almandinger?
Yes, sir.
Is he in the courtroom today?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me where he's sitting and what he's wearing today?
Sitting right there, he's wearing a white shirt.
How did you become familiar with Erick Almandinger?
He's been my neighbor since I was a small child, about 4 or 5.
Which street do you live on?
North Esty Drive.
And when you say neighbor, across the street, next to him?
Pretty much across the street, yeah.
And how long do you figure you've known him?
Maybe 14, 15 years.
Let me turn your attention to November 13th, 2016. And I'm not sure if you remember it as that day or if you remember it because of the events.
Right.
So do you remember the exact date or not?
I don't remember the exact date, I just remember the date because of the events.
All right, so let me ask you, were you at Erick Almandinger's house when there was an argument between Rodney Almandinger and David Evans?
Yes, sir.
All right, and if I told you November of 2016, does that sound right?
Yes, sir.
And what time did you get to the Almandinger house?
I can't remember, it was daytime though.
And when you say daytime, it was still light out?
It was still light out, yes, sir.
And did you just stop by, or were you invited? Tell us how that came to be.
I can't remember if I was invited or if I just told them I was coming over, but one way or another, I ended up there.
And who was home when you came over?
As far as I can remember, Eric and Rodney. That's all I can remember.
And what did you do when you were over there?
We pretty much just hung out and talked, watched TV, as far as I can remember.
And when you say we, who are you referring to?
Me and Eric.
Was anybody else there in the beginning or not?
Not that I can remember.
And where in the house were you?
Down in the basement.
In Erick Almandinger's room?
Uh,
Or is it a living area there?
It was in the living room, the living area, yes, sir.
So watching movies, right? What else? Anything else you were doing?
Not that I can remember, no, sir.
Was there any marijuana smoking?
Not that I can remember.
How about drinking?
Not that I can remember, no.
All right, so you don't remember, I mean, when you were there, you didn't get drunk or high?
No, sir.
And did you see whether the defendant got drunk or high when you were there?
I can't recall, no, sir.
Doesn't stick out in your mind as him being drunk or high?
Not in my memory, no, sir.
And then, what do you remember happening, like the things that stick out in your mind about that day after you got there?
Essentially, we were just hanging out, and then David Evans came over to the house, and Rodney started yelling at him about not being home for 5 or 6 days, so I got uncomfortable and I left.
Was Rodney Almandinger's voice loud?
Yes, sir.
Was he swearing?
I don't remember which exact swear words, but yes, sir.
Yeah. And was it obvious too that he was angry with David Evans?
Yes, sir.
And did you know David Evans from before?
I've met him 2 or 3 times for sure. Other than that, I didn't know him that well, no.
Did Erick Almandinger get involved in that discussion between Rodney Almandinger and David Evans?
I believe so, yes.
In what way?
Just yelling at his dad to pretty much stop yelling at David.
And what in particular made you uncomfortable?
Just how loud and angry Rodney sounded, essentially.
And you decided on your own that it was time to leave?
Yes, sir.
Which door did you go out of? The front door?
I went out, up the stairs and out the front door, yes, sir.
And where was Erick Almandinger when you left the house?
I went out to the garage because he was out in the garage, and I said goodbye. The lights were off. There was 3 or 4 kids in there. Didn't see any faces, and then I said goodbye to Eric and I went home.
When you say the garage, are you talking about the old garage or the new one? I think the old one's like reddish color and the new one is tannish color.
Right.
Which garage are you talking about?
The new tannish color one.
And where was the defendant in relation to this garage?
It's hard for me to remember, but I believe he was either led me out to the garage or was already in the garage.
And did he say anything to you as you were leaving?
Not really. I just stood out there for 5 minutes maybe, and I told him I'm done. I'm gonna leave.
What caught your eye about the garage or the people inside the garage?
Mainly the fact that the lights were off kind of tipped me off that something was weird, so I went home.
The lights were off inside the garage?
Inside the garage, yes, sir.
But was the door open?
Well, the door was open for me to go in.
Right. I mean, was it what they call the man door, the regular door, or the big door? Tell me about that.
The big door was closed.
Okay, so how did we able to see the people inside?
Just the bodies, the silhouettes, the outlines, their bodies, really. I couldn't see any faces or really give any detail about them.
Could you tell how many people?
Like I said, maybe 3 or 4.
Males or females?
Males.
Young or old?
Young.
Did you know what they were doing?
No, sir. They were just standing out there.
And you were not curious to find out what they were doing?
No, sir.
And then at that point, did you go home?
Yes, sir.
And before November 13th, had you seen Erick Almandinger with the handgun?
Yes, sir, yes.
On how many occasions did you see him with the handgun?
Maybe once or twice.
And was it a Ruger handgun?
Yes, sir.
How are you familiar with Ruger handguns?
I own one.
And what type do you own?
A 9mm Ruger P85.
And that's a semi-automatic pistol?
Yes, sir.
And the handgun that you saw him with, was it also a semi-automatic pistol?
Yes, sir.
And under what kind of circumstances did you see him with the handgun?
Just when we were hanging out or something, he'd take it out and show me or just kind of mess with it, rack it back.
Where did he take it out from?
His back pants.
And when you say he messed with it, what did he do specifically?
Just racked it back and kind of looked at it with his hands and just stuff like that.
And was it loaded when he was racking it?
Yes.
And could you tell what caliber his Ruger was?
From the sight of it, I could tell it was either a 40 or a 45.
Because?
Just because of the large bullets.
State's Exhibit number 3 is in front of you. Does that appear to be the handgun that you saw?
Yes, sir.
Now, when you saw him before the 13th, did you notice that he was wearing gang attire?
The blue bandanas?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right. And did you see him doing gang signs?
Yes, sir.
And did you ever look in his tablet or on his computer?
I've never been in it myself, but he turned it towards me and showed me pictures from Snapchat and whatnot.
And did you ever see any photographs of him doing the gang signs?
Yes, sir.
And what was your impression of that?
My impression?
Yeah, what did you think of that?
I was not impressed.
Did you ever try to tell him that maybe he shouldn't be doing that?
Well, once or twice I'd kind of motion or try to tell him to, or make some sort of gesture that it was not for me.
And what did he say?
I couldn't remember.
Did he ever say why he did those things?
Just because it's just the way it was, I guess.
And those are his words, that's the way it is?
Not exactly, I'm paraphrasing.
You don't remember his exact words?
No, sir.
You mentioned David Evans, you said you saw him how many times before November 13th?
I can't remember the exact number, but it had to have been like 2 or 3 times.
At Erick Almandinger's house?
Yes, usually.
How about Devin Peterson, are you familiar with him?
Yes, sir.
And how are you familiar with Devin Peterson?
I saw him when I went into the Alaska Military Youth Academy. Within the first 2 weeks, I would see him just kind of sitting out on his own like he was in trouble from the cadre.
And you were at the academy?
Yes, sir.
And did you finish the academy?
Yes, sir.
And had you seen Devin Peterson since then or not?
I saw him like once or twice maybe with Erick Almandinger.
At Erick Almandinger's house? Or
Yes.
Or out and about?
As far as I can remember, at Erick Almandinger's house.
But you weren't friends with Devin Peterson?
No, sir.
And Austin Barrett, are you familiar with him, or do you need to see some photographs?
I would need to see some photographs.
State's exhibit number 24, do you recognize the person in that photograph?
Yes, sir.
And did you know his name or not?
Yeah, now that I see his face, it was I actually don't remember that face very much.
No.
No, sir.
Did you ever meet a person named Andrew?
No, sir.
No?
No,
Okay.
sir.
How about, and we have other photos, but how about number 25? Did you ever meet that person? Bradley Renfro?
That photograph is a little too blurry for me to really
Okay.
make it out.
So you don't ever remember meeting somebody by the name of Austin Barrett?
I don't remember, no, sir.
Or did you ever remember meeting somebody by the name Bradley Renfro?
That name does stick out for me. I believe it.
Through Erick?
Yes,
Or
sir.
through some other way?
Through Erick, it would be, yes, sir.
And number 27 is Devin Peterson.
Yes, sir.
I'm not going to go through this binder to find the other photos, but
Right.
It doesn't sound like you were good friends with Austin Barrett, right?
No, sir.
And likewise for Bradley Renfro, were you good friends with him?
No, sir.
Or Devin Peterson?
No, sir.
Or David Evans, for that matter?
No, sir.
How about Dominic Johnson? Did you ever meet him?
I don't believe I ever met him, no.
Have you ever heard his name before?
Maybe once or twice.
And back in November of 2016, I know you're working at Fred Meyer now. What were you doing back then?
I was just working as a day worker for Frank Finn for concrete, just
And-
installing concrete pads and whatnot.
And when you told us that you were neighbors with Erick Almandinger, did your parents have that house, or grandparents, or tell me about that?
My grandparents own that house.
How about David Grunwald? Have you ever met him before?
No, sir.
Have you ever seen him at Erick Almandinger's house?
No, sir.
Did you see any vehicles that didn't belong to the Almandinger family when you left on that evening?
Not that I can recall, no, sir.
And did you have contact with Erick Almandinger after November 13th, 2016?
I believe when the police were searching his house, was that after November 13th?
I would assume it was.
Oh, okay, yeah. Then, yes, he came over to my house then.
Right. And was he acting any different than he acted before November 13th, 2016?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Cross-examination?
So, you've known Eric since at least you were 4 or 5?
Yes, sir.
And he's about a year younger than you?
Yes, sir.
And your families know each other?
Yes, sir.
And you used to play games with Erick,
Yes, sir.
including like sword and shield games with Erick,
Yes, sir.
and bow and arrow games with Erick?
Sure, yes, sir.
You testified in direct examination that Erick showed you his gun, right?
Yes, sir.
And you weren't frightened when he was showing you his gun, were you?
No, sir, because I own guns of my own, so.
Okay. And you've likewise shown Erick your gun also, right?
Yes, I'm sure I have.
And he's examined your gun also?
Yes, sir.
And that's something both of you did? And you weren't frightened of him having a gun?
No, sir.
When the police interviewed you, they asked you about Erick, right?
Yes, sir.
And you told the police that Erick was a decent guy, right?
Yes, sir.
Thanks, I have no further questions, thank you.
Redirect?
No, thank you.
Okay, you step down, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, James Bracker is our next witness.
Okay.
Please remain standing. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and or from testimony you give in this case is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Can you please state and spell your first and last name for the record, please?
James Bracker.
You're going to have to spell your first and last name.
Oh, Janes Bracker.
And what is your occupation, sir?
I'm a regional manager for a industrial sales company.
Thank you so much.
Go ahead, Mr. Counsel.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir. Mr. Bracker, I'm going to turn your attention to an item specifically. It's the one sitting in front of you. It's marked States Exhibit number 3. And it's in a safe condition with the lock on it, a handgun, obviously. And I'm going to ask you, can you look at it and tell me if it looks familiar to you, sir?
I would say yes.
Okay, and could you tell us how it looks, how are you familiar with that firearm?
It looks similar to a firearm I purchased many, many years ago, except the grips may be different than when I last remember it.
Yeah. How long have you lived in Alaska, Mr. Bracker?
My whole life.
I'm going to turn your attention to States Exhibit number 127, which is in the binder. If you can take a closer look at that. I have a copy here, so we can both use the exhibit, and I can ask you some questions. This is, we've agreed here that this is ATF firearms trace summary, and it just provides a documentation of the known recorded history of this firearm. Basically, any transactions that were recorded. So it has a description of the firearm, the model, and the caliber. And was your Ruger the same model number as this one?
I don't remember the actual model number, but it does look like that. It did look like that gun.
And was it a .40 caliber?
It was.
Okay. And I wouldn't expect you didn't bring any. Some people are very good about saving all their paperwork in piles and keeping it. Do you still have the paperwork for the police
No, I mean,
purchase?
seeing that it was purchased in 1993, I wouldn't have known that, but.
Okay, so if we look at this and it says 9/16/1993, which was a very long time ago, a purchase at Chimo Guns, and the purchaser information, James Bracker, does that jog your memory that that's where you bought the Ruger?
I knew I bought it locally.
Yeah.
But I didn't remember whether it was at the old Pay and Save. I just remember I knew I bought it locally, so.
Okay.
I believe I bought it from this paperwork.
Okay, thank you. And then, and so this was what we're saying is this was a legitimate purchase by you from a legitimate firearms dealer, correct? Okay.
It was purchased at the store.
All right. And then the other thing I was going to ask you, Mr. Bracker, is was this your only firearm, or did you have other firearms?
I had other firearms, yes.
More than one, more than two?
I had a handful of handguns, and I also had a few rifles. The reality of the situation is that I basically have the firearms, but I use one gun every year to go hunting, and I really never, the rest have just stayed back in storage.
And let me turn your attention to January of 2017. I understand that the Alaska State Troopers contacted you asking about your Ruger 40 caliber.
I was contacted by the troopers, yes.
Right. And were they asking you whether you had possession of it or whether you had purchased that firearm?
They mentioned they had possession of a firearm that was registered to me.
Okay.
And that had been used in, or was in possession of some people that were involved in a horrendous crime. And so I was shocked, and then was just, I didn't know how it could possibly have been, I didn't know it was missing.
All right. So, and Mr. Bracker, let me ask you, if you remember, before the troopers called you, contacted you, do you remember the last time you handled that gun or used the gun?
I hadn't used it in years.
All right.
The only thing that ever happened was that I had done a remodel on the house, and while I was remodeling the house, we had moved, or I had moved them all to a shed. And then we had all, me and my kids and my girlfriend's kids, we all moved them back in the house and stuffed them back under the stairs.
And
we didn't really open the cases, or we didn't look at anything. We just moved a bunch of cases and boxes.
And sir, after the troopers told you they had possession of the gun, did you do a cursory inspection of your home to make sure?
Immediately, yes.
All right. And did you find the Ruger or not?
I was not able to locate that gun.
All right. And I don't know if you flipped everything over and looked at every single spot, or did you look in the likely spots that it would be?
Well, I looked in the likely spot, which is where they were stored.
Right. And as far as, let's talk about, so we don't know, you don't know when this gun became missing, is that correct, as far as the exact date? And let's talk about people that would have had permission to have your gun. We know it was your gun. Did anybody else have permission to have it or not? No. So was your house burglarized ever between 1993 and January of 2017?
I wasn't living in this house I've been there about 10 years, but as far as burglarized, I didn't know, but there was there were a lot of teenagers in the house, and there was a lot of different people going through and out, but there was no known burglaries that I reported, beyond the common break-ins that everybody gets in the valley now in their peripheral stuff. But
all right. And when you say a lot of teenagers, I take it that's because you had kids and they had friends.
My girlfriend had kids, but like I said, as far as burglaries or anything, these guns were in the shed for a while, and there was a lot of, the shed had been broken into before, and all the vehicles had been broken into, so it's just common now in the valley where I couldn't figure out how it happened at that point.
And did you do any personal investigating, or did you leave that up to the troopers to determine who may have taken your firearm?
No, at that point I asked the teenagers that were around, I questioned them directly, and as a parent would.
And was Brody Wilson one of the people?
Yes, he was.
And did he admit to you that he took the firearm?
He did.
And were there any other names that you learned as a result of doing your personal investigation?
The name that came up over and over was Garrett.
Last name?
I don't remember Garrett's last name.
Give me a moment. Thank you, sir.
Cross-examination?
If I say Garrett's last name was Canada, does that sound familiar to you?
That's the name.
Okay, no further questions, thank you.
Any follow-up?
No, thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. You can step down. For the record, Ms. Howard, who's your next witness?
Next date will resume with Investigator Jorgensen.
Okay, have a seat, sir. Remember, you're under oath.
Yes, Judge.
Can we get the lights too, madam?
We can't, yes.
So when we left off, we had just finished going through messages that you located and put in your Excel spreadsheet between Dominic Johnson and Erick Almandinger.
Yes.
Did you also, now I want to draw your attention to Devin Peterson. Did you have Devin Peterson's social media records as well?
We did.
Snapchat and Facebook?
Yes.
And did you locate conversations between Erick Almandinger and Devin Peterson?
We did.
States Exhibit 207?
You submitting it now?
Yes, Mayor.
No objection.
Okay. Go ahead.
207?
Thank you. 207 will be admitted.
Okay. So the first conversation you have in your spreadsheet is from November 24th, 2016?
That's right.
Okay. And about what time was that message?
That message is at 11:18 in the morning.
Who was messaging who?
This is a group message from Erick Almandinger to Devin Peterson, Garrett Canada, and Dominic Johnson. The message is, "My FB is bugged and shit, remove me." The next message is on November 25th at about 3:05 p.m. from Devin Peterson and Erick Almandinger. This is a Facebook phone call that's about 263 seconds. At 6 o'clock p.m. on the 25th, Devin Peterson sends Erick a another Facebook call, 332 seconds long.
And is the continuing conversation here on November 25th between Erick Almandinger and Devin Peterson?
It is.
Okay.
The rest of this slide goes from 6 o'clock to about 6:11 in a continued conversation.
Okay, next one.
This slide continues on the 25th of November at about 6:11 p.m. with Devin Peterson telling Erick Almandinger, "Where are you going to work?"
And then what's the last message in this, for this slide?
Last message goes until 6:35 p.m. on the 25th.
And in this conversation, does it just appear that Erick Almandinger and Devin Peterson are talking about getting together, that sort of thing?
Yes, it does.
Next one. And tell us about this next slide, group of conversation.
It's a continuation of the conversation still from November 25th at 6:38 p.m. all the way up until 6:42 p.m. on the 25th.
And what is, if you could go through these?
Yeah, so Erick tells Devin Peterson at 6:38 p.m. on the 25th, "So how about ask if his GMA can drive y'all to cars and then my crib after y'all stop at the store to get monks. And I can be in the parking lot waiting for y'all and get in the car, because that one is the one I'm the hottest at." And Devin tells Erick she doesn't want him to go there. Erick tells Devin, "Where, my house?" Devin tells Erick, "Yee." Erick tells Devin, "Why not? WTF." Devin tells Erick, "BC, because you're the main suspect." Erick tells Devin, wow. Erick tells Devin, fucking shitty. How does she know who I am and where my house is? Like, WTF. Devin tells Erick that Coos, C-O-O-S, talked to her. And then said they know IR every move. Erick then tells Devin, and I'm not the main suspect, I'm just someone they think has info on things, something that didn't happen. Devin tells Erick, yee. Erick tells Devin that I wasn't even a part of, so this is BS. Smiley face. They know my every move, question mark, 2 smiley faces. Bet. Devin then tells Erick, haha. And Erick tells Devin, FR, they said that shit? Doubt it. And Devin tells Erick, IG. And that last message is at 6:42 p.m. on the 25th.
Okay, the next one. And does this conversation continue?
It does. From 6:44 on the 25th, 6:44 p.m. on the 25th, Erick tells Devin, it's fun because they said they tracked my SIM and shit, but my phone was dead at Alyssa's, and there was no charger for my tablet there for a while, so they're dumb as fuck. Smiley face. They literally have nothing and think they can get my TP to say I did some shit I didn't do. And Devin tells Erick, right. Erick tells Devin, like it's fucked. And there's 6 smiley faces, but obvious as fuck. Devin tells Erick, fuck him. Erick tells Devin, fuck with a 16 YO genius, see what happens. Smiley face. When you're smarter than the ops. Erick then tells Devin, swear. Devin tells Erick, aight, chill. Erick tells Devin, nah, flames, nigga. Devin tells Erick, FR. Erick tells Devin, just tell her you're going to Alyssa's then, but store first. I swear, haha, have her take y'all to the store and go get monks. Use her car to get to Alyssa's then walk. Devin then tells Erick, okay, we'll try FR nig. Erick tells Devin, all right, that last message is at 7:01 p.m. on the 25th of November. This continues at 7:02 p.m. on the 25th of November with Erick telling Devin, but if it's a no to monks, just don't unless there's other way to keep me up because I'll pass out. I'm so tired. Erick tells Devin, low key, haha. Devin tells Erick, okay. Where should we dropped at? Erick tells Devin, call me. Devin tells Erick, and get the 20. Then Devin then just calls Erick using Facebook, and that conversation lasts about 51 seconds. And that ends at 7:28 p.m. on the 25th.
And these were conversations located on Devin Peterson's Facebook record?
That's correct.
Thank you. Did you locate any conversations, messages between Erick Almandinger and Bradley Renfro?
Yes.
States Exhibit 205, move to admit.
Any objection?
No objection.
So admitted.
And is this slide from your Excel spreadsheet, the messages you located, or what you were able to locate between Bradley Renfro and Erick Almandinger?
It is, yes.
And what were you able to locate?
A lot of deleted messages, basically. The times on this slide go from November 26th at 2:35 in the morning to November 30th at 11:02 in the evening. This first message at 2:35 in the morning is from Bradley to Erick. It's deleted. That was on Bradley's Facebook page, from his records. And then from Erick's Facebook records on the same time, 2:35 in the morning, Bradley tells Erick, You still got the beats though, question mark? And then we're back to Renfro's, Bradley's records at 2:14. Bradley tells Eric, you, or yo. Bradley then tells Eric, Nika. Eric tells Bradley, huh? Bradley tells Eric, what you doing, cuz? Bradley tells Eric, I know a phone call on Facebook from Bradley and Eric for 44 seconds. All the other messages from 6:40 p.m. on the 30th to 11:02 p.m. on the 30th between Eric and Bradley are all deleted.
And that's from Bradley Renfro's Facebook records.
Yes.
Thank you. We heard, previously heard an interview with Erick Almandinger, and the name Anthony Herring was mentioned. Did you locate any conversation messages between Erick Almandinger and Anthony Herring?
We did, yes.
States Exhibit 206.
No objection.
So admitted.
And is this slide from your Excel spreadsheet between Erick Almandinger and Anthony Herring?
It is.
And what is the date range of those messages?
These messages are from Eric Almandinger's Facebook records. They go from 6:31 p.m. on the 18th to 7:48 p.m. on November 23rd. All the messages between Eric and Anthony between 6:31 on the 18th to 2:18 on the 23rd are deleted. On 7:47 p.m. on the 23rd, Anthony Herring tells Eric, damn, nigga. Yeah, they already questioned me. I told them I was at a house party in a studio apartment in Mountain View with you before Halloween.
So prior to those last messages where you do get content, everything else before then was deleted.
That's right.
Did you locate messages between Erick Almandinger and Rodney Almandinger?
Yes.
States Exhibit 204.
Move to
Move
admit.
to admit, States Exhibit.
No objection.
So admitted.
Already been admitted as States Exhibit 169. Do you recognize 169?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize that one?
These are the photos taken with the ZRT system during the examination that I conducted on Erick Almandinger's tablet.
And is that the conversation, a conversation between Rodney Almandinger and Erick Almandinger?
Yes, it is.
And that was from the other, you talked about the two different ways that you searched the tablet?
Yes.
One with the ZRT and one with the Cellbrite?
Yes.
And that exhibit is from the ZRT?
Correct.
Is that right? Okay. And, go ahead. So, with your Excel spreadsheet, did you also locate that conversation within the Facebook records?
I did, yes.
Okay. So I don't want to go through each one of these as we already have them in States Exhibit 169. But did you include that conversation in your Excel spreadsheet?
I did, yes.
Okay. So we can quickly go through these. Yeah, that's, okay, next one. Next. 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 And that's where he's, okay, so next. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, so next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, so I think we're out of that. Now we're on November 19th here. So I just want to draw your attention to a couple of the messages in this slide. The very last message, can you tell us about that message?
Yes, this message is from November 19th at 5:05 p.m. It's a message from Eric to Rodney that says, "Then can you get me and Dom and my nig Andrew come for the night instead of going to A-Town?"
Okay, next one. And does Eric get a response?
He does at 5:42 p.m. on the 19th from Rodney to Eric. "Remember I said no one stays the night while I'm gone? I'll think about it on my way home. I'll have to take the truck home and switch rides first, but at this point, one person, not two, that's too much on GMA."
And what does Eric say?
And Eric responds to that at 5:57 p.m. "Okay, Andrew may not have a place to go is all. He'll be gone tomorrow, ASAP probably though."
And that was on November 19th?
Yes.
Next one. Is this just a continuing conversation between Rodney and Eric about who's going to stay the night that night and how they're going to get a ride?
It appears to be, yes. From it goes to here till about 8:30 on the 8:30 p.m. on the 19th, and then it goes to the 20th at about 11 a.m.
Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. And again, these are just continuing conversations that Eric's having with Rodney about who's going to be at the house and what they're going to be doing.
Yes.
And next slide. And one more. Okay, so I want to draw your attention to the first message with this slide at November 22nd at 20:47. What is Eric asking Rodney?
Eric asks Rodney, "Can Dom come with me? I want to be not bored."
Okay. Go ahead.
Then Eric tells Rodney again, "Please," and he'll come to school with me tomorrow morning. Rodney replies to Eric, "He has to stay downstairs, no running upstairs and making noise. You ready now?" "Yes, question mark." Eric tells Rodney, "No, 10 rather." Rodney tells Eric, 40 minutes then, meet at where I drop you off, question mark. Eric tells Rodney, "Yeah." There's a Facebook call from Eric to Rodney that didn't go through, 0 seconds, or didn't get picked up. Eric tells Rodney, "Can you take my nig Andrew to the store?" Rodney calls Eric on through Facebook. Call lasts about 130 seconds. Eric tells Rodney, "Close, question mark," and another question mark at 9:49 p.m. on the 22nd
Next
of
slide.
November.
And what is the first message?
This is on the 22nd of November again at 9:58 p.m. Eric asks Rodney, "Can Andrew come too?" He goes to Pathways. Eric then says he just needs a place to stay tonight, please. Rodney tells Eric no. 5 minutes, 1 minute here at 10:04 p.m. on the 22nd of November.
And next slide. What is the first message on this slide?
This one is November 26th at 3:34 p.m. Eric asked Rodney, "Can my nig Andrew stay the night?"
Okay. Keep going.
Then Eric asks Rodney, Andrew, again. Rodney tells Eric, only the night, but not till after GMA is all packed up and home. Eric then tells Rodney, HMU hit me up only the night, like just for the night, but not to spend the night. Eric then asks, or tells Rodney, WAM, or what you mean. Rodney tells Eric, I'm meaning that he can spend only one night tonight. And Rodney tells Eric, I'll be bringing Pizza Hut home from here tonight. And Eric tells Rodney, okay, at 5:06 p.m. on the 26th of November.
There's one more. And is this just the continuing conversation about what's going to happen that night, November 26th?
It is the 26th and the 28th.
Okay, go ahead.
So on the 26th,
Oh, yeah, okay,
go ahead. All right. So on the 26th at 10:03 p.m., Eric tells Rodney, pick me up a lighter, please. Got none. Rodney tells Eric, okay, be home in an hour. Make sure the door is unlocked for me up there, please. Eric tells Rodney, get blunt wraps. Eric tells Rodney, on the way, please. Rodney tells Eric, I'm on the road already. Eric tells Rodney, we'll pay you. I'll drive with my permit. And then we're at November 28th at 1:49 p.m. Rodney tells Eric, might be a little late, had to stop at Bishop's Attic. Eric tells Rodney, shitta. Rodney tells Eric, I'm here. And that is at 1:54 p.m. on the 28th.
Okay. Okay, then move to admit 204.
0 what?
204.
204, any objection?
No.
So admitted. 204.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, cross-examination.
So,
You gonna need the slides?
no, yeah, we can turn the light on. I just have a couple of questions. So the items that were highlighted in the spreadsheets, that's obviously not all the chats that happened on Eric's device, right?
It is not.
So Eric communicated with people other than his dad, Devin Peterson, Bradley Renfro, and Austin Barrett, and Dominic Johnson, right?
He did, yes.
And so, and if we were to go through that, there could be hundreds more people that communicated with Eric or that Eric communicated with, right?
I don't know that there were hundreds, but there were other people he communicated with,
Okay.
yes.
And then the volume of that would also be a binder full of
It would be.
messages probably, right?
Yes.
And the photos that were highlighted, those weren't the only photos, correct?
On his tablet,
Yeah.
or, yes, they were not.
Okay,
There were
so there's photos that are not related to this on his tablet?
There are.
Thanks, I have no further questions.
Any redirect?
Just one. Okay. And may I approve?
Yeah, you may.
State's Exhibit 168, it's been previously admitted. Do you recognize that conversation?
I do, yes.
And is that the conversation between Erick Almandinger and Alyssa Bledsoe that you located through the ZRT function of your search?
It is, yes.
Did you also find that conversation contained within the social media records?
I believe it was there, yes.
Okay, that's all I had.
No further questions.
Okay, sir, you can step down.
Thank you.
Mr. Kalachek, who do we have next?
Our next witness is Michael Plachinsky.
Okay.
He is in Fairbanks,
Okay.
and we've agreed to do him telephonically, so not to make him drive down from Fairbanks.
Very long?
Nope, he was just like Mr. Brackery about one of the guns.
Okay, well, why don't we turn off this projector and then we can call him. So we'll we'll finish this witness and then take our breaks. Are you there, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm gonna have the clerk swear you in.
Yes, sir.
Will you please stand and raise your right hand? And tell me when you've done so.
I'm ready, ma'am.
You solemnly swear and/or affirm the testimony you should give in this case now before this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, ma'am.
Will you please state, you can put your hand down, will you please state and spell your first and last name for the record?
Michael Plachinsky, Placinski.
And what is your occupation, sir?
United States Army.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Gallagher.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Plachinsky. My name is Roman Kalichuk. I'm one of the prosecutors in the trial, and I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm going to turn your attention to January 3rd, 2013, and the location of the Fort Knox Main Exchange on Gold Vault Road in Fort Knox, Kentucky. Is any of that ringing a bell?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you purchase a firearm at that establishment on that day?
To the best of my knowledge, yes, sir. I did purchase one. I'm not sure on the exact date, but I'm sure that's it.
Yeah, and was it a Springfield model XDM 9mm caliber semi-automatic pistol?
Yes, sir.
And do you have the serial number on you or close to you or not really?
No, sir, I do not.
All right. You said you're in the military, correct?
Yes, sir.
Eventually, did your employment take you to the state of Alaska?
Yes, sir.
And specifically, which place?
Fort Wainwright.
And you're in Fairbanks right now?
Yes, sir.
Did you get contacted by the Alaska State Troopers on December 28th, 2016, that they identified you as an owner of a firearm that they had in their possession through an ATF trace of the firearm?
Yes, sir.
And that was about the Springfield XD pistol, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you, before they contacted you, did you notice that you were not in possession of that firearm anymore?
Yes, sir.
When did that come to your attention?
A couple of weeks prior.
And how did it come to your attention?
Just checking through my gun safe. Realized that it wasn't in there.
So let me ask you, was this a pistol that you regularly used or carried, or was it one that you had in your collection?
It's kind of in the collection, sir.
When you noticed it was missing, did you try to figure out when you might have lost it or misplaced it?
Yes, sir.
What was going through your mind?
I had a hunting trip, September-ish, and I was trying to just recall of where, if I had taken it with me and where I could have placed it or possibly misplaced it at that point.
And was this 2016?
Yes, sir.
Did you look for it?
Yes, sir.
And were you able to find it?
Not before I was contacted, sir.
And was your house burglarized or your car broken into or anything like that which would have resulted in the firearm being taken?
Not that we were aware of, sir.
And later, did it come to your attention how the gun was taken?
There was some possibilities. Yes, sir.
Right. And what was the possibility?
That somebody had either taken it from the house or that the possibility that my daughter had taken it.
And what is your daughter's name?
Kimberly Plachinsky.
And how old was she back in 2016?
14, sir.
And then let me run another name by you. Garrett Canada. Is that person, are you familiar with that person?
I believe I've heard the name Garrett. I don't know the last name, sir.
Was he a friend of your daughter's?
Yeah, I believe so, yes, sir.
And I don't want to put words in your mouth, the Garrett Canada, but the Garrett that you heard of, as far as the name that you heard of, was it in the context of him being one of your daughter's friends?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever confront your daughter about it?
Yes, sir.
Did she admit taking it?
We just had some discussions about it, sir, and it was left pretty unclear exactly how it all happened.
And in those discussions, was Garrett's name mentioned?
Yes, sir.
As the person who eventually wound up with this pistol?
Yes, sir.
And had Garrett been to your house before?
Yes, sir.
And you're saying before the troopers contacted you, you didn't quite know whether it was stolen or just misplaced?
I'm sorry, sir. Could you repeat that?
Yeah, before the troopers contacted you in December of 2016, you weren't sure whether it was officially stolen or just misplaced?
Correct. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Cross-examination?
Good afternoon, Mr. Plachinsky. I'm John Anacone. I'm the defense attorney in this case, okay?
Yes, sir.
So just a couple of questions for you. The house where the Springfield 9mm was taken from, that was your house in Fairbanks?
On Fort Wainwright, yes, sir.
Okay. And to the best of your knowledge, it was stolen sometime between the hunting trip in September and when you noticed it was missing in October of 2016?
And yes, sir. End of October, maybe first week of November, but right around there, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Any redirect?
No, thank you.
Okay, sir, thank you very much. You can hang up today.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we'll take our 15-minute afternoon break. We'll be off record. Next witness.
Thank you. It's a continuation of Sergeant Wilson's testimony.
Okay, sir, you understand you're under oath? Yes, sir. All right, go ahead, Mr. Galicek.
Thank you, Judge. Sergeant Wilson, November 21st, 2016 was the investigation ongoing?
Yes.
That was a Monday according to our calendar. What did you personally do on that day?
On the 21st, I wrote and was granted a search warrant for the location data from AT&T for the defendant's tablet that had been seized on 11/18.
And was there a window of what data you were looking for at the time?
Yeah, I believe I asked for the 12th of November through the 15th of November, so 11/12 through 11/15.
And did you get results pretty quickly?
You know, it depends. Honestly, I think I've gotten them as quick as 2 hours, and I've had them take 3 weeks. On this particular occasion, I think we got them the next day.
As far as the material or the interpretation of the material?
Well, the interpretation is quicker than actually getting records from AT&T. We can put a rush on them. AT&T has one centralized location for law enforcement to request records for nationwide. So every law enforcement agency is requesting records through one location, AT&T, it's in West Palm Beach, Florida. So sometimes they get records back to us very quickly when we put a rush on it. Sometimes our rush still takes 3 weeks.
And Investigator Dunford eventually gave you an interpretation of the records?
That's correct.
And did it increase your curiosity in Erick Almandinger?
Yes, during the initial kind of hasty review of the records, we noticed that the defendant's tablet was in close proximity to David Grunwald's Bird Bronco on the night that we believed it was burned.
And also, was there a forensic analysis done of his tablet? Obviously, we know that it was done because we listened to it, but did you get feedback on that?
Yes.
And was it on the 21st or before the 21st? Was it after or before the 21st when you started seeing some of the photographs of the gang signs and the blue bandanas and things like that?
We started seeing those roll in right around the 19th and or 21st. So the 20th was a Sunday. We didn't have anything happening on Sunday the 20th, but we did on the 18th, 19th, and 21st as far as the tablet goes.
And the photo that we have marked as Exhibit 29 of the defendant with the word "Killas" on it, did that come to your attention before, after, or on the 21st of November?
On the 21st, I believe.
Any of your crew do anything on the 21st that's noteworthy?
I had Sergeant Ingram and Investigator Decor doing a couple of interviews for me. I had them meet with Anthony Herring. I had Investigator Carlton Ballesteros looking for more security video footage. I think both of them actually testified to what they found at the Selden and Church Tesoro. I had Investigator Adams helping me out with a couple of interviews. He also ended up going to cars and getting a video of David Grunwald coming out of cars with a 1-gallon jug of water that he got from Starbucks that day. That's a kind of an overview of the 21st.
Turning our attention to Tuesday, the 22nd of November, did you communicate with Investigator Kalt on that day?
Yeah, I'd actually been communicating with him daily, but particularly on the 22nd, yes.
And did he inform you that he and Investigator Ballesteros had seen the cab go back and forth on Church Road?
Yes.
And as a result, did you meet Scott McCormick on the 22nd of November?
Yes.
And did you interview him?
Yes, I did.
Now, he testified here. Did you try to show him some lineups of people to try to, was he able to identify anybody from photographs at that point?
He wasn't.
Any of your group do anything significant on the 22nd?
I had Investigator Jorgensen doing some work for me on the 22nd. We got some call detail records from AT&T for the defendant's account. He was still examining the tablet still on the 22nd. I had Sergeant Ingram talking with the family of David Evans. He actually talked to Mr. Piercy, who we already spoke with here, and I believe David's mother and father. Like you mentioned, Investigator Colt was helping me out. I interviewed Mr. McCormick with me. And I think that's the highlights for the 22nd.
Now, going to the 23rd, the Wednesday, what did you personally do on that day?
On the 23rd, I re-interviewed David Evans at Valley Pathways, and I also went back to 780 ST and I spoke with the defendant at his house.
And about how long was the interview of the defendant at his place on the 23rd of November?
It was, I looked back at my notes and I saw that it was about 39 minutes.
And was that recorded?
Yes.
All right. I intend to play that tomorrow at 9, so I'm going to skip over that for the time being. What else, did any of your team members do anything on the 23rd that was significant?
I don't have anything noted here. Give me 1 second. I had, Investigator Kevin stopped by the local coffee shop on the Palmer-Wasilla Highway near Prospect Road. Tried to get some video from the coffee shop, and I had investigator Decor helping write search warrants for AT&T records for Andrew Bell Gleason. I had investigator Jorgensen writing search warrants and analyzing data from social media accounts for the defendant. We got call detail records. We wrote a search warrant for the phone number that was used to call the Alaska cab, which we have established that ended up belonging to Dominic, which we found out later that week. Had investigator at the time, now Sergeant Dunford, helping me out with some interviews, search warrant services, search warrant applications. Sergeant Ingram helping me out with the interview with the defendant and his father on the 23rd. I had investigator Ballesteros still looking for yet more video from local businesses in the vicinity of the Fishhook Food Mart and the Selden and Church area. I had investigator ended up contacting Alyssa Bledsoe on a traffic stop that day. He ended up getting an interview with her. And I think those are the highlights for the 23rd.
In an investigation, is it typical that you follow up on some information and it may result in something relevant, and you may follow up on something and it wouldn't be useful to the investigation? Is that typical of the way investigations go?
That's a fairly accurate statement, sure.
All right. Now, turning your attention to the 24th, which is a Thursday, we heard testimony from Investigator Kalt and Ballesteros that they made contact with Dominic Johnson at the Wasilla car store. You were made aware of that?
Yes, they called me directly after making contact. And I knew that they were in the process of doing that. I didn't know, obviously, at the time that they were going to end up making contact with Dominic, but they called me, and they were telling me what was going on.
And when on that day, Kalt and Ballesteros, are they plainclothes guys?
Yes.
And not suits and ties, but just regular clothes, so they blend in?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anything else happen on the 24th?
Look through my notes just to make sure. Nothing comes to mind. I'm not. I think we covered the highlights for the 24th.
How about the 25th on Friday? Anything significant?
Friday the 25th. Friday the 25th, I still had investigator Kalt helping me out with some interviews and just follow up. Investigator Ballesteros and I think Sergeant Ingram went to the area of, we had Pittman Road and Doubloon is the name of the cross street, and we researched a wooded area for a real long time. I want to say we searched almost the entire afternoon on the 25th. Because we had received some location data that suggested that possibly the defendant, but maybe others, and I'd have to refer back to my notes, but nonetheless, we had location data that put some folks in that area for a period of time, to the point where we thought it's worth checking this wooded area. So me, Investigator Ballesteros, and I think, like I said, Sergeant Ingram went out and walked through the woods for hours off of Pittman.
How about Saturday the 26th? Were you contacted by Shane Kalt that he had contacted Alyssa Bledsoe and Bradley Renfro?
Yes.
Was that at your direction, or did he stumble upon them during the course of the day?
I think it was kind of both. He stumbled upon them, but he knew that we needed to talk to Miss Bledsoe.
And did Kalt do a brief contact interview with Bradley Renfro on that day?
Yes.
Anything else happen on Saturday the 26th?
Sorry, we had a lot going on the 25th. 26th, I had investigator Furno helping me out with an exam on the Cellbrite, so she was forensically analyzing a mobile device on the Cellbrite. I had, looks like investigator Bucknell was helping me out with some computer devices being downloaded at TCU in Anchorage. That is about the highlights for the 26th, from what I can tell.
And the binder you're referring to, is that one where you integrated all the reports together for
Yeah,
your,
correct.
in chrono?
So essentially, my report prints out chronologically, so I'm able to go page by page, which is day by day, versus investigator by investigator.
All right, now, I was going to ask about the 29th next, because looking at your report, that's the next report, next page in your report, but I don't want to skip over the 27th and 28th if something important happened on those days in the investigation. Can you tell the jury about those days?
Sure, the 27th, I don't see anything happen. That must be a Sunday, and it is. Yep, Sunday the 27th. We didn't have any major movements in the case, if you will. On the 28th, a lot more search warrant writing, applications for search warrants through Anchorage and Palmer courts.
And then on the 29th, we've heard that there was a search warrant executed at 780 St. Drive, which is the home of Rodney and Myler Almandinger, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And was it a fairly large group of people that were involved in that?
I guess it depends on what your definition of large group. I could name them off, I think, if you need me to. Investigator Call, Investigator Ballesteros, Investigator Adams, and I. So 4 of us, off the top of my head, I think is who went to that. Oh, and Investigator Decor and Sergeant Ingram. So there was 5 or 6 of us there.
All right. And let me ask you some questions. The trailer, were you in the trailer?
So are you talking about the bumper
Right.
trailer?
Yeah, the old camper trailer?
No. At one point, I'd say in the middle of the search warrant service, I was alerted to come outside and take a look at it. I didn't go inside of it, but the door was opened.
And you heard Mr. Ward testify this afternoon that he had seen some younger males in the newer garage on the property. Can you tell the jury where that trailer was positioned related to that newer garage? How many feet away from the main door or the big door of the garage?
So the garage I believe he's talking about, the newer garage, is another detached garage, but it's more like a shed, except that it has a garage door. And it's large enough to hold a vehicle, but it's on skids. I don't think it has a slab, cement slab or anything underneath it. So I would categorize it as a big shed with a garage door. But nonetheless, that is about, I'd say a maximum of about 50 feet from where the travel trailer is. And the travel trailer was in between the detached garage in question and the house.
And was the trailer covered with a tarp when you got there?
Yes.
And was it broke down, if you recall?
Tires seemed, from what I remember, the tires were round.
No, I mean, the tarp, was it roped?
Oh, roped down. I thought you
Yeah.
said broke down. Sorry. No, it was roped down for sure. We had to unrope it to get the tarp off.
And did you smell any unusual smells on or around the trailer?
Yes, when I got to it, I smelled the strong odor of bleach.
And then, we know the trailer was secured, obviously, we saw it
Correct.
here. There was a search of the home also?
Yes.
Anything, I didn't see any significant evidence discussed as far as anything being seized in the home, correct?
Correct.
Okay. There was some marijuana in the home?
Yes.
And you heard David Evans testify that marijuana was smoked at that home?
Yes.
And did you find some to corroborate Mr. Evans' testimony?
Yes.
Anything else on the 29th, which was a Tuesday?
Looks like I had an investigator call and helping me out with some interviews with Dominic's grandmother. Investigator Feeser was helping me out with some follow-up. Looks like I had tasked Sergeant Ingram with getting a hold of some video from an individual who called us up and said he lived off of Sites Road and had possibly had some, his security cameras may have captured something. Sergeant Ingram ended up talking with Mr. Geddes. We got that video that day.
And so as it was on the 29th, did you and the troopers you were working with, was there a determination made as to the possible people involved in this incident as far as suspects?
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head if we had, I want to say on the 29th, we had knowledge that Dominic Johnson was involved, Bradley Renfro was involved, and that the defendant was involved as well. I'm going off of my memory and its proximity to December 2nd, which we're coming up on.
And turning your attention to November 30th, Wednesday, did you have contact with Bradley Renfro on that day?
I did.
And was that at the Wasilla Police Department?
Yes.
And did he have any of his family present there?
I actually called his mother for him. He requested that, so we waited to talk to him until his mom got there.
And did you have a sit-down interview with Bradley Renfro on that day?
Yes.
About how long was it?
Oh, it was, I'd say it's fairly lengthy. I want to say it was an hour. Could have been a little bit over an hour.
And I'm not going to get into the content of the interview, but after the interview, did he remain, as far as the investigation, a person that you consider to be involved in this incident?
Yes.
Then anything else happen on the 30th?
Looks like we had a couple more mobile devices examined by the Technical Crimes Unit. Investigator Jorgensen was still helping me with preservation requests for Snapchat and Facebook. He already kind of spoke to all the folks that he preserved and served search warrants on. He was still analyzing mobile devices for us. Investigator Decor was helping out with search warrants for AT&T. Investigator Decor was helping out with quite a few search warrants. And that's about the highlights for the 30th.
All right, now, as far as the jurisdiction of the case, so 780 Estee, is that within Palmer city limits?
You know, I want to say it is. I'd have to look at that map we had to be for sure, but I want to say that's in Palmer PD's area, which would put it inside the city limits.
But the troopers were already running with this case, is that why the troopers stayed with it?
Correct.
All right, now it gets us to December 1st, 2016. Did you have contact with Bradley Renfro again on that day?
Believe so. Yes.
And his mother?
Yes.
And during that day, what else was going on in the investigation as far as other people doing what?
So the crime lab had come out and were conducting a forensic exam of the 71 bumper pull RV that we'd taken from the defendant's house a couple of days prior on the 29th. So they were conducting their forensic exam. Investigator Jorgensen was still helping me with search warrants for social media and analyzing that data. So I had Investigator Decor helping out with the service of the exam on the trailer, and I went to the Grunwald residence and I got known DNA samples.
All right. Now, you sat through Bernie Johnson's testimony, Investigator Jorgensen's testimony, correct?
Yes.
So as far as knowledge, the things the troopers involved in the investigation had knowledge of up to 12/1, was it as detailed as the information that Ms. Howard presented through Ms. Johnson and Investigator Jorgensen, as far as all the Snapchats, all the photographs?
No.
Did that information, was that developed later from analysis?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a sheer amount of information that was coming in via the social media and search warrant services that we were serving on carriers like AT&T, GCI, Verizon, Snapchat, Facebook, etc. We were getting some highlights from those accounts, but we weren't able to truly dissect them like we have to today.
Let's turn our attention to the second now. And I know we covered the afternoon of the second when you started testifying. But I want to talk a little bit about how it came to be that Bradley Renfro and Alyssa Bledsoe and the others were in Palmer. So can you take us through that?
Sure. At about 2 o'clock in the morning on the 2nd, so the early morning hours, I received a call from a Palmer PD officer. Told me that she was in contact with Alyssa Bledsoe and Bradley Renfro and that they were trying to rent a room at the Valley Hotel here in Palmer because they had nowhere else to go. I tried to get a hold of Bradley's mother, because obviously I'd made contact with her in the past. I was unable to get a hold of her, and so I made the decision that the Alaska State Troopers would pay for the night for Alyssa Bledsoe and Bradley Renfro to stay at the Valley Hotel so that they could have a place to stay until I came to work at 7 a.m. that morning. So that was kind of the why behind why they ended up at the Valley Hotel.
All right. And then I think there was testimony that a phone call flushed them out of the hotel.
Correct.
Or later that morning?
Yes.
And was that from your office or?
That was from me.
Okay. And what was the nature of the phone call? Did you say you want to talk to somebody or?
Yeah, essentially I think it wasn't a phone call necessarily. I think it was a text message, to be honest with you. It may have been a phone call. Nonetheless, I contacted Bradley Renfro and I said, hey, I want to chat with you for a minute. And I had already got information that it was possible that Austin Barrett and Devin Peterson may have been with him at the time, and I knew that if I made that phone call to him and he thought I was going to come over there, that he would probably kick them out. So I did. I made the call, and that's exactly what happened. They all left.
And did you have some investigators in the area to observe the goings-on?
Yeah, I had an investigator called, Investigator Ballesteros, with me over there watching, and I want to say Sergeant Nelson might have been there as well, but I can't recall.
And on that day, did Devin Peterson join you at the Palmer Post to have an interview with you?
Yes.
And you gave him his Miranda rights?
Yes.
And you interviewed him. I'm not going to go into the content. How long was that interview?
30 to 45 minutes off the top of my head.
Now, on the Renfro, on paying for his hotel room, did you have some hope that somebody, one way or another, may disclose where David Grunwald's body is if you kept in touch with people?
Yes.
Okay. Now, so later when we talked about John Mark Peterson contacting you and saying that his client, Dominic Johnson, was willing to provide some assistance on December 2nd, were you anticipating that phone call, or did that just come out of the blue on that day?
For the most part, I guess it was out of the blue. It wasn't something I anticipated.
And did you know Mr. Peterson was involved in the case before December 2nd?
I don't think I did, no.
All right, so I'm going to skip over, we already covered what happened the afternoon, how David was found, and then let's skip over that part. Then I think I asked you whether you had contact with Erick Almandinger later on the 2nd. I think you said you did, right?
Did.
And did you interview him at length at the Palmer Trooper Post?
Yes.
Which other people were present for that during various parts?
His father, his grandmother, and then I'd estimate somewhere in the middle his mother came. And also Investigator Ballesteros was there.
And was that interview audio and video recorded?
Yes.
And how long was the video, roughly, just ballpark?
A couple hours, 3.5 maybe.
So I'm not going to have you summarize it because we're going to play it for the jury tomorrow. So I'm going to skip over that part. And then, so that was December 2nd.
Correct.
And now I'm going to turn to after December 2nd. And as far as your report, my part, it skips to December 5th. But tell me, was there anything significant about the 3rd or the 4th?
Give me 1 second to refer to my notes.
And maybe I should ask, and the defendant was arrested after his interview on the 2nd?
Yes.
Okay.
3rd and the 4th was a Saturday and a Sunday.
Was anybody else arrested on the 2nd?
No.
And so back to the 3rd and the 4th.
I had some investigator fees are doing some follow-up for me. He's got investigator Dunford helping on the 2nd, the 3rd. Looks like just investigator fees was just doing a little bit of follow-up from his supplement here for the 3rd, but that's about it until about the 5th.
Right. And then the 5th, is that when you folks found out that there was video footage from the Holiday gas station showing Renfro and Johnson on it?
I believe so, yes.
And that was Investigator Ballesteros who secured that?
Yes.
And anything else on the 5th before we get into the search warrant at K Lake Road, which was covered by some other witnesses?
No.
No. Then did you go out to K Lake Road, Peterson's residence on the 6th?
I did.
Devin Peterson's?
Correct.
And did you participate in the execution of that search warrant?
Yes.
And then also that day, did you have further contact with Bradley Renfro?
I believe so. Give me one second for my notes. I think that was, I believe I had contact with him that day, yes.
And was it for purposes of interviewing him again?
Yes. I spoke to him at about 3 p.m.
And what was the location of that interview?
Palmer Post.
How long did that interview take?
I don't remember that one being long. It was maybe, yeah, if it was 30 minutes, I think that would be, it was roughly 30 minutes.
And that was the 6th. Anything else on the 6th before I move along to the 7th?
Nope, that's about it for the 6th.
Turning your attention to December 7th, Wednesday, did you initiate contact with Austin Barrett or have some of your team members initiate contact with Austin Barrett?
Yes.
And who did that?
Investigator DeCore and Sergeant Ingram.
And was he eventually brought to the DA's office?
Yes, sir, he was.
And was he interviewed?
Yes.
All right, we already had testimony from Ingram about that. Now, I'm almost at anything else on the 7th?
I had Investigator DeCore helping us out with an interview with Kyle Pratt, it looks like. Looks like he may have... Nope, that's about it. We had one follow-up interview with Mr. Pratt, and then what we already spoke about.
Right. And then I think I mentioned in my opening statement that before December 2nd, we had a grand jury, we had some grand jury dates reserved for this case, is that correct?
Correct.
In an attempt to try to determine whether there was any foul play or who did harm to David Grunwald?
Yes.
Okay. And we kept those dates, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And we utilized those dates on December 9th, is that correct?
I think it was the 8th and part of the 9th, correct.
All right. And then after grand jury was held, did you arrest Austin Barrett?
I had somebody do it for me, but yes, Austin was arrested.
And was Bradley Renfro arrested?
Yes.
And was Dominic Johnson arrested?
Yes.
And we know that Erick Almandinger had been arrested earlier, and was Devin Peterson arrested eventually too?
Yes.
Now, before I go into late December and the year after, I want to turn your attention to our next exhibit. Visible legal rights, please. I'm turning your attention to number 243. Do you recognize this exhibit?
It looks like a timeline, yes.
Right, and did we create this timeline based on the information that was discovered through the investigation?
Yes.
And all this information essentially has been testified to in the trial thus far?
Yes.
Right. Now, in this timeline, there is no event which says David Grunwald was shot at this and this time, right?
No.
And there is no event about the Bronco was burned at such and such time, right?
Correct.
Okay, so this is merely trying to put people at various locations?
I believe so, yeah.
All right. I'm going to take the microphone because I'm going to have to be sliding it back and forth. I'm going to ask you some questions about it. So back to State's Exhibit number 243 proposed. It starts out, it just says significant event, starts out with the date November 13th, 2016. And it starts out with what we discussed very early in this case, is that correct?
Yes.
And it jumps up and down, correct, just so we had room to put the events in there?
Correct.
Okay. So as far as the first couple of events focus on David Grunwald, correct?
Yes.
And what is the very first event?
It looks like on November 13, 2016, about 5:40 p.m., David and Victoria leave the Grunwald home.
All right. And that was substantiated through Victoria McKelkey's testimony?
Correct.
And the next event that we could put an approximate time to?
Was when David Grunwald picked up David Evans at Pioneer Pizza on this November 13th at about 5:53 p.m.
And did you find any evidence during the investigation that contradicted that event or that information?
No.
All right, tell me if we run into any of those problems, tell me so we can write on here and correct them. And the next significant event?
David drops Victoria off at her mother's house. There's no time frame there because we knew it was that night, but we didn't have an exact time frame there.
And after that?
David drops David Evans at Erick Almandinger's house, and we know that that had come in close proximity to when he dropped Victoria, and then he ended up going back and getting Victoria to take her to Dad's house. And there we go. So he picks Victoria back up at her mother's and ends up going to Cars, grabbing some water from the Starbucks, which is depicted on the top one there.
And some of these have very specific times. Would that be from the video footage?
Yeah, if we know the time, we'll put the time on there. If we know a specific time, others where we may have just a ballpark time, we'll just put the date.
All right. And the next event as we go down the line?
After he gets water at Cars, the next one is David drops off Victoria and Crystal at their father's house at approximately 6:20 p.m.
And then we start focusing on Dominic Johnson and Erick Almandinger, and this relates to Investigator Jorgensen's testimony.
Sure.
Earlier this afternoon. What is our next event that we chose to put on the timeline chart?
Dominic Johnson tells Almandinger they are at the camper at 6:22 p.m.
And would that be from the text that we saw earlier today?
Facebook messages and text, correct.
And what is the next event?
A phone call. David Grunwald calls his mother to get his curfew extended at about 6:30 p.m. on the 13th.
And the one after that?
David Grunwald arrives at the Almandinger house at about 6:40 p.m.
And is that using some math with Victoria McKelkey as far as how long it takes for her to get dropped off?
Yes.
All right.
So at 7:07 p.m., David Grunwald tells Miss Dykus that he is smoking a joint. That's via Instagram message, I believe, at 7:07 p.m.
And the next one?
Dominic Johnson asks the defendant to borrow a toolie at 8:09 p.m.
Right. Now, I'm going to focus a little bit on that one. Have you seen that word toolie before, encountered that word toolie before?
I'm trying to remember whether I've heard that before this case or if I just heard it a bunch in this case. I can't remember, but I know, I guess it kind of sticks out to me, that word sticks out to me from this case.
And what do you know about the word toolie as far as how it's used in this context?
Something to mean a firearm.
Right. And when the messages go on to say, and they talk about that 4.0, Well, what did you think they were talking about?
.40 caliber.
All right. Now, from this, can we really tell whether Johnson's asking for the gun to beat David Grunwald or asking it for some other endeavor? I mean, do we really know, or is it just we have to look at the facts and circumstances and make those decisions?
I think you have to look at the facts and circumstances and everything surrounding that event to determine exactly what the intent was.
All right. But the fact that the defendant had a .40 caliber Ruger, that's been substantiated through the investigation, correct?
Yes.
And other witnesses?
Yes.
All right. Let me slide this back down. All right, let's go to the next event.
Sure. So David Grunwald messages Angela back, and I think that, if I remember correctly, she didn't actually even check that till the next day, but nonetheless, he sent that at 8:10 p.m.
All right. So unless somebody else is using David Grunwald's phone, we know that he is still alive at 8:10 p.m. on that day.
Yes.
And the next one?
Dominic Johnson tells the defendant he needs to act fast at 8:16 p.m. on the 13th.
And those from the text going between the two?
It's Facebook Messenger, if I remember correctly.
And that's why we have the exact time on this timeline?
Correct.
All right, next one.
The defendant messages Cheyenne Suarez at 8:20 p.m.
Anything else significant about that, or is it just to show that he's active on his phone at 8:20?
I don't recall anything significant coming out of that particular message.
And the next one?
At about 8:35 p.m. on the 13th, we have last cell data from David's phone at 8:35 p.m.
And then it's going to shift into some of the technical crimes unit stuff.
Sure, so we get a cell tower ping. Sorry.
We had a backing board on this, so. There we go.
All right, so 9:43 p.m. on the 13th still. Per a tower ping, Dominic Johnson's phone is in the Butte area.
And the next event after that?
The defendant, Dominic Johnson, Bradley Renfro, and Austin Barrett go to Devin Peterson's house off K Lake Road. We don't have a time on that, but it's the 13th still. The next event is about 9:55 p.m. on the 13th. Victoria McKelkey starts messaging the defendant via Facebook Messenger.
And that's contained in the exhibits that we presented?
Yes.
And the next event?
Rodney Almandinger starts also messaging the defendant at about 10:20 p.m. I'll back it up just a hair.
Give me a moment here, I just got to adjust the chair. All right.
Get that, there we go, perfect. So the next event is, we got Bradley Renfro places the gas cans at the pump at the Holiday Station near mile 49 of the Parks Highway, just past Pittman on Northtown.
And how do we have the exact time for that?
We've got that from the security camera footage, the video essentially of that happening.
And the next one?
He goes inside the gas station at 10 seconds, not even 10 seconds, 5 seconds later, he goes inside to pay for the gas. And then about 2 minutes later, Dominic Johnson is on the phone with Devin Peterson, and he's standing at the pumps, and we can see that he's standing at the pumps on the phone. And we know from the call detail records that at that exact time he's talking to Devin Peterson.
Now we're going to go further later into the evening. What's the next significant event that we have there?
So the defendant responds to Victoria McKelkey's Facebook message at 11:37 p.m. on the 13th.
And so is it fair to say we didn't put every single event on this timeline?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. It's fairly long as it is, but these are just the ones that we can put into the time frame?
Yes.
Right. Now I got to switch the chair. All right, now we're going into the 14th. What is the first event on the 14th?
The first event on the 14th is at 12:12 a.m., so just after midnight. The defendant responds to his father on the Facebook messages that he's been sending him.
And then after that,
Dominic Johnson calls the Alaska cab.
and how do we know that again?
12:28 a.m. We have, not only do we have CDRs, we have the Alaska cab info, and I think we have timestamps from the Johnson's cell phone records that we got through search warrant services at AT&T. The next one is we see the cab on the video at the Selden and Church to Sorrow. I think that's where it's going northbound at 12:55 a.m. And then the next event is the cab driver, Mr. McCormick. He picks up the defendant, Bradley Renfro, and Dominic Johnson at the Little Susitna Bridge.
All right, I'm going to start a pickup speed here because the judge has to be out in 5 minutes.
So we see the cab coming back at about 1:03 a.m., so roughly 8 minutes later, and then the defendant starts communicating with Alyssa Bledsoe at about 3:55 a.m. We see Bledsoe tells the defendant to keep the group quiet at 6:12 a.m. That's because they're already at her house and making noise in the shed. We find the Bronco off of Sites Road at 12:18 p.m. on the 14th, and then Trooper Green responds to the Bronco's location about 20 minutes later after getting the call that it had been located, and then we move into the 16th.
Judge, I think this is, we have a little bit more to go, but I think this might be a good place to break for us. Thank you.
Okay, members of the jury, we'll recess for the day, but before you leave, I think I'll give you just kind of the schedule for the next week, so you guys can kind of know that. As I mentioned before, we'll be going all day tomorrow, so report at 8:30. Friday, we'll be going from 9 to 12, so again, report at 8:30. And then I actually haven't told the attorney